The night Celine Vale put a gun to the head of the most dangerous man in Blackwater City, she wasn't thinking about survival. She was thinking about revenge. Blood pooled beneath the crystal chandelier. Thunder cracked outside the cathedral nightclub. And Lucien Draven, the king of the criminal underworld, stared at her like she'd just signed her own death warrant. But here's the thing about desperate women. They stop caring about consequences. They start caring about making the bastards pay. If you want to see how a broken woman became the only thing a monster feared, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. Rain didn't fall on Blackwater City. It attacked. The kind of downpour that turned streets into rivers and made neon signs bleed their colors across wet asphalt like open wounds. Celine Vale stood outside the cathedral with her hand shaking around the sapphire ring in her coat pocket, watching shadows move behind tinted windows 3 stories up. She'd been standing there for 20 minutes, long enough for her hair to plaster against her skull, long enough for her shoes to fill with cold water, long enough to realize she was either about to make the smartest decision of her life or the last one. The bouncer at the door was the size of a refrigerator. Scar tissue ran down his neck like someone had tried to slit his throat and failed. He looked at Celine the way you look at roadkill, vaguely curious, mostly disgusted. "We're closed," he said. "I need to see Lucien Draven." The bouncer's expression didn't change. "You got an appointment?" "No." "Then you need to leave." Celine pulled the ring from her pocket and held it up. Even in the rain, even under the dim streetlights, the sapphire caught light like a piece of trapped sky. The bouncer's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to be?" "Payment," Celine said. Her voice cracked. She hated herself for it. "Tell him someone wants to make a deal." The bouncer stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out a radio and muttered something she couldn't hear over the rain. 30 seconds later, the door opened. "Third floor," the bouncer said. "Elevator's broken. Take the stairs. Someone touches you on the way up. Scream loud. Maybe someone will care." Celine stepped inside. The cathedral didn't look like a nightclub. It looked like a mausoleum designed by someone with too much money and not enough conscience. Black marble floors. Walls covered in dark velvet. Lighting so dim you could barely see 3 feet in front of your face. The air smelled like expensive tobacco and something else. Something sharp and metallic that made Celine's stomach turn. Blood. Old blood. The stairs were narrow and steep. Celine's wet shoes slipped on every 3rd step. By the time she reached the 2nd floor, her lungs burned. By the time she reached the 3rd, she was gasping. A man waited at the top, tall, thin, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Celine made in 6 months. He had the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled in its life. "Arms up," he said. Celine raised her arms. The man patted her down with clinical efficiency. His hands lingered a second too long near her ribs. Celine forced herself not to flinch. "She's clean," the man said to someone Celine couldn't see. "Send her in." That voice. Celine had never heard it before, but she recognized it anyway. The kind of voice that didn't need to shout to make you afraid. Low, controlled. Every word weighed and measured like ammunition. The thin man stepped aside. Beyond him was a door made of solid oak, carved with patterns that looked like thorns. It swung open silently. Celine stepped through. The office looked like something out of a nightmare dressed up as a dream. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, rain streaking down the glass in patterns that looked almost alive. Leather furniture. A desk made of black wood. Bookshelves lined with volumes that looked older than the building itself. And behind the desk, backlit by the storm outside, sat Lucien Draven. He was younger than Celine expected, early 30s maybe. Dark hair pushed back from a face that could have belonged to a corporate lawyer or a college professor if not for the eyes. Storm gray. Cold. The kind of eyes that looked at you and calculated exactly how much effort it would take to erase you from existence. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No jacket, no tie. Blood speckled his right forearm. He didn't seem bothered by it. "Sit," Lucien said. It wasn't a suggestion. Celine sat in the chair across from him. The leather was cold even through her wet clothes. Her heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Lucien studied her in silence. 30 seconds. A minute. Long enough that Celine started to wonder if he was waiting for her to speak first, to fill the silence like most people did when they got nervous. She kept her mouth shut. "You have something for me," Lucien finally said. Celine placed the ring on the desk between them. The sapphire caught the window light and threw blue shadows across the dark wood. Lucien didn't touch it, didn't even look at it. His eyes stayed locked on Celine's face. "What's your name?" "Celine Vale." "Why are you here, Celine Vale?" Celine's throat felt like sandpaper. "I need your help." "I don't help people." "I'll pay." "With that?" Lucien gestured at the ring without looking at it. "Sentimental value isn't currency. It's worth $40,000. So sell it." "I can't." Celine's hands curled into fists in her lap. "It was my grandmother's. It's the only thing I have left that matters." "Then why give it to me?" "Because what I need from you matters more." Something flickered across Lucien's face. Not quite interest. More like the faint curiosity of a scientist examining something unexpected under a microscope. "What do you need?" Celine took a breath. "I need you to pretend to love me." Silence. The kind that felt like pressure building before an explosion. Then Lucien laughed. It was a terrible sound, sharp and humorless, like breaking glass. "You walked into my office," he said slowly, "in the middle of the night, soaking wet, to ask me to play pretend." "Not pretend," Celine said. Her voice was steadier now. Anger did that sometimes, burned away the fear and left something harder behind. "I need you to come to a wedding with me. My ex-fiancé's wedding. I need him to see me with someone who makes him look like nothing." "Why would I waste my time on something that small?" "Because I'm offering you $40,000 for one night of work. That's not small." "It is to me." Celine leaned forward. "Then why haven't you thrown me out yet?" Lucien's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between them. A recalibration, like he'd just realized he wasn't dealing with someone quite as broken as she looked. "You think you're clever," Lucien said. "I think I'm desperate. There's a difference. Desperate people are dangerous." "Good. Then we'll understand each other." Lucien picked up the ring, turned it over in his fingers. The sapphire sparkled like a tiny universe caught between his thumb and forefinger. "Tell me about him," Lucien said. "The ex-fiancé." "His name is Damien Holloway. We were together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. Then his father told him he needed to marry someone with better political connections if he wanted to keep his trust fund." Celine's voice went flat. "So he found Senator Whitmore's daughter, announced the engagement 2 weeks after he dumped me, made sure everyone knew I wasn't good enough, that I never was. And you want revenge. I want him to see what he lost." "There's no difference." "Maybe not." Lucien set the ring back down on the desk. "Why me?" "Because everyone in this city is afraid of you. Politicians, businessmen, people like Damien who think money makes them untouchable. But you? You're the thing they're afraid of in the dark. If I walk into that wedding with you, Damien won't be able to breathe without remembering it." "You understand what I am," Lucien said. It wasn't a question. "I know what people say you are." "And you don't care?" "I care about making that bastard hurt the way he hurt me. If that means making a deal with someone dangerous, fine. I'm past caring about safe." Lucien studied her for another long moment. Then he stood up and walked to the window. Rain hammered the glass. Lightning fractured the sky over the river, turning the water silver for half a heartbeat. "I could take your ring," Lucien said without turning around, "and have Marcus throw you into the street. You'd have nothing, no leverage, no recourse. What would you do then?" Celine's hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against her thighs. "I'd find another way." "There is no other way. Not for this." "Then I'd die trying." Lucien turned around. "You mean that?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I'm tired of being invisible. I'm tired of being the person people forget about 5 minutes after I leave the room. I'm tired of men like Damien treating me like I'm disposable." Celine's voice cracked again, but this time she didn't care. "I want him to see me. Really see me. Even if it's just for one night. Even if it's a lie." Lucien crossed back to the desk, sat down, picked up the ring again. "I'll do it," he said. Celine blinked. "What?" "I'll go to the wedding with you. I'll play the devoted lover. I'll make sure every person in that room remembers your name." Lucian leaned back in his chair. But not for this ring. Then what do you want? 2 weeks. 2 weeks of what? You move into my penthouse. You do exactly what I tell you. No questions, no arguments. I'm going to rebuild you from the ground up. By the time we walk into that wedding, you won't need me to make people look at you. You'll command the room on your own. Celine's mouth went dry. Why would you do that? Because taking your money would be easy. Watching you transform yourself? That's interesting. I don't get interesting very often. What if I say no? Then take your ring and leave. Find someone else to help you. Good luck with that. Celine looked at the ring on the desk between them, looked at Lucian's cold gray eyes, thought about Damien's smug face when he told her she wasn't good enough, thought about every person who'd looked through her like she was glass. Okay, she said. Lucian smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Celine had ever seen. Marcus will drive you home, Lucian said. Pack whatever you need. He'll pick you up tomorrow morning at 6. Don't be late. 6 in the morning? Did I stutter? Celine stood up. Her legs felt like water. What happens if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? Then you'll break, Lucian said simply. And I'll have wasted 2 weeks. But something tells me you're harder to break than you think. Marcus appeared in his doorway like he'd been listening the entire time. Probably had been. Celine followed him back down the narrow stairs, through the dark club, out into the rain. The car was a black Mercedes with windows so tinted you couldn't see inside. Marcus opened the back door. Celine climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and gun oil. Seatbelt, Marcus said. Celine buckled up. The car pulled away from the curb, windshield wipers beating a rhythm against the storm. Blackwater City scrolled past the windows like something out of a fever dream. Neon signs advertising strip clubs and bail bonds. Homeless people huddled in doorways, police sirens wailing in the distance. Selena's apartment was in the kind of neighborhood where you learned not to make eye contact. Marcus parked in front of a building with half its windows boarded up and kept the engine running. 6 a.m., he said. Sharp. Celine got out. By the time she reached the building entrance, the Mercedes was already gone. Her apartment was on the 4th floor. No elevator. The stairwell smelled like piss and old cooking grease. Celine's hands shook so badly it took her 3 tries to get the key in the lock. Inside, she turned on every light. The apartment wasn't much. 1 bedroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, furniture she'd bought secondhand and fixed up herself. But it was hers. The only thing in her life that still felt like it belonged to her. Celine sat down on the couch and started crying. Not the pretty kind of crying you saw in movies, the ugly kind. The kind that came from somewhere deep and wounded and wouldn't stop until it had emptied you out completely. She cried for the woman she used to be before Damien, the version of herself who believed in fairy tales and happy endings, and men who kept their promises. She cried for the 3 years she'd wasted loving someone who'd never seen her as anything more than temporary. She cried because in 6 hours she was going to walk into the home of the most dangerous man in Blackwater City, and she had no idea if she'd survive it. When the tears finally stopped, Celine went to the bathroom and stared at herself in the mirror. She looked like hell, eyes red and swollen, hair still wet from the rain, mascara streaked down her cheeks in black rivers. But underneath all that, she saw something else, something small and hard and angry. A spark. Celine turned on the shower and stood under water so hot it turned her skin pink. She washed away the rain and the fear and the exhaustion, scrubbed until she felt raw, clean, empty enough to be filled with something new. By the time she got out, it was past midnight. Celine threw a duffel bag on her bed and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, the few things she couldn't stand to leave behind. She worked mechanically, not thinking, just moving. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and made coffee. Sat at her kitchen table watching the sky slowly turn from black to gray. Somewhere in the building below, someone was screaming. Couples fight, probably. The kind that happened so often, nobody even called the cops anymore. Celine thought about Lucien Draven's cold eyes, about the blood on his forearm, about the way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he wanted to solve before deciding whether to throw her away. She thought about what she was agreeing to. 2 weeks of complete control. 2 weeks of letting a man who ruled through fear and violence strip away everything she thought she knew about herself. The smart thing would be to run. pack the bag and get on a bus and never look back. But Celine was done being smart. Smart had gotten her nothing but a broken heart and a reputation as the girl stupid enough to believe Damien Holloway's lies. Smart had made her invisible. At 5:45, Celine heard a car pull up outside. She looked out the window and saw the black Mercedes idling at the curb. Marcus stood beside it, checking his watch. Celine grabbed her bag and left the apartment without looking back. Marcus opened the car door. Right on time. I'm a fast learner. You'll need to be. The drive to Lucian's penthouse took 15 minutes through morning traffic. They crossed the river into the financial district where the buildings were taller and the streets were cleaner and the people walking to work wore suits that cost more than Celine's monthly rent. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a glass tower that looked like a knife stabbing into the sky. Marcus led Celine through a private entrance into an elevator with mirrors on every wall. He scanned a key card. The elevator rose so smoothly Celine barely felt it move. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that didn't feel real. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. White furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Art on the walls that Celine recognized from museums. Everything's sharp angles and cold surfaces, and the kind of perfection that made you afraid to breathe wrong. Lucian stood in the middle of the living room wearing black workout clothes. Sweat darkened his shirt. His knuckles were wrapped in tape. You're late, he said. Celine checked her watch. It's 5:58. I said 6. That means 5:59 is late. Lucien grabbed a towel and wiped his face. Drop your bag. Come with me. Celine followed him down a hallway lined with doors. He opened one and gestured inside. Your room. Unpack later. Training starts now. Training for what? Lucien turned to look at her. For becoming someone people can't ignore. Now move. He led her to another room, some kind of home gym with equipment that looked military grade. Weights, punching bags, mats on the floor, a wall of mirrors that made the space feel infinite. Stand in the center, Lucien said. Celine obeyed. Her heart was hammering again. Lucien circled her slowly, studying her from every angle like she was a sculpture he was considering purchasing. Look at me, he said. Celine met his eyes, tried to hold his gaze, lasted maybe 3 seconds before looking away. Again. She tried again. Lasted 4 seconds this time. You apologize with your eyes, Lucien said. You look at people like you're sorry for existing. That ends today. Again. They did it 15 more times. By the 10th repetition, Celine's hands were balled into fists. By the 15th, she held his gaze for a full minute without flinching. Better, Lucien said. Now, walk to the door. What? Walk to the door. Celine walked across the gym. Normal pace, normal stride. When she reached the door, she turned around. Lucien was shaking his head. You move like you're trying not to be noticed. Shoulders forward, steps too quick, eyes on the ground. Walk like that into a room full of predators, and they'll eat you alive. He moved toward her. Again. This time, imagine every person watching you is afraid of you, because they should be. Celine walked back across the gym, tried to stand taller. Lucien stopped her halfway. You're performing. I can see you thinking about it. It needs to be instinct. He positioned himself behind her, put his hands on her shoulders. The touch was impersonal, but electric. Stand up straight. Pull your shoulders back. Chin up. Breathe from here. He tapped her diaphragm. Not here. He tapped her chest. When you walk, you own the ground beneath your feet. Every step is a statement. Now do it again. They spent 2 hours on walking. By the end, Celine's legs ached and her pride was in tatters, but something had shifted. She could feel it in the way her body moved through space, less apologetic, more deliberate. That's enough for today, Lucien finally said. Shower. Breakfast in 30 minutes. Don't be late. Celine limped back to her room. The shower felt like heaven. By the time she found her way to the dining room, Lucien was already sitting at a table made of dark glass reading something on a tablet. Breakfast was already laid out. Fruit, eggs, coffee. More food than Celine usually ate in a day. Sit, Lucien said without looking up. Celine sat, started eating. The food tasted better than anything she'd made for herself in months. Tell me about your job, Lucien said. I work at a law office, administrative assistant. You like it? It pays the rent. That's not what I asked. Celine set down her fork. No, I don't like it. I sit at a desk and file paperwork and answer phones and get treated like furniture. Why do you stay? Because I have bills and no better options. Bullshit. You stay because it's safe. Because being invisible means nobody can hurt you. Lucien looked up from his tablet. But you're not invisible anymore. From now on, you're going to learn how to be seen, how to use it, how to make people who underestimated you regret it. Why do you care? I don't. But I made a deal. I keep my deals. He pushed his plate away. We have 2 weeks. Every morning starts at 6. We train. Then we work on presentation, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you read a room. Afternoons are for strategy, learning how to identify power, how to move through social structures, how to make allies and enemies. Evenings we practice in the field. The field? Restaurants? Galleries? Places where Damien's people go? You need to learn how to function in their world before we walk into that wedding. What if I can't learn fast enough? Lucien stood up. Then you fail, and I'll have wasted 2 weeks of my life. Motivation enough? He walked out before Celine could answer. The days that followed blurred together into a brutal routine. Every morning at 6, Celine met Lucien in the gym. He taught her how to stand, how to walk, how to hold herself like she owned every room she entered. He was merciless, corrected every slouch, every nervous gesture, every instinct to make herself smaller. In the afternoons, they worked on speech. Lucien recorded her reading passages from books, then made her listen to herself speak. Made her hear every apology in her tone, every question mark where a period should be. They practiced conversations until Celine could answer cutting remarks without flinching, could deflect rudeness with the kind of cool precision that made people feel stupid for trying. Evenings were the hardest. Lucien took her to restaurants where reservations took months to secure, made her order for both of them, made her send back wine that didn't meet his standards, made her complain to managers about imaginary problems just to prove she could. You're teaching me to be an asshole, Celine said one night after they'd left a restaurant where she'd forced herself to argue about an undercooked steak. I'm teaching you that your comfort matters, Lucien corrected, that you don't have to accept less than what you deserve. There's a difference between being entitled and knowing your value. What if I don't know my value? Then we'll build it from scratch. On the 6th day, Lucien took her shopping. Not to the mall, to the kind of private boutiques where there were no price tags and the sales associates looked at you like they were deciding if you deserved to be there. Pick something, Lucien said, gesturing at a rack of dresses that looked like they belonged on runways. I don't know what to pick. Then learn. What makes you feel powerful? Celine ran her hands over silk and velvet and fabric she couldn't name, tried on dress after dress in a dressing room that was bigger than her old bathroom, stood in front of mirrors that showed her from every angle. She finally settled on a black dress with a neckline that made her nervous and a fit that made her feel dangerous. When she stepped out, Lucien looked up from his phone and went still. That one, he said. You're sure? I don't repeat myself. The dress cost more than 2 months of Celine's rent. Lucien paid without blinking. That night, he took her to a gallery opening in the arts district. The kind of event where everyone knew everyone and outsiders were tolerated but not welcomed. Celine wore the black dress and shoes that made her 3 inches taller and felt like she was walking into battle. Stay close, Lucien said as they entered. Watch how I move through the room. Watch who I talk to and who I ignore. You're going to learn how power flows in spaces like this. They moved through the crowd like sharks. People noticed Lucien immediately, couldn't help it. He radiated something that made everyone want to either get closer or get away. And Celine, walking beside him, felt the spillover of that attention, felt people's eyes on her, wondering who she was, why she mattered. Lucien Draven, a voice said. A woman in red approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I didn't know you appreciated modern art. I appreciate things that challenge perspective, Lucien said. Victoria, this is Celine Vale. Celine Victoria runs one of the city's most influential PR firms. Victoria's eyes raked over Celine, assessing, calculating. Pleasure. Likewise, Celine said, kept her voice steady, held Victoria's gaze the way Lucien had taught her. Something flickered across Victoria's face. Surprise, maybe. She'd expected Celine to crumble. They talked for 5 minutes about art. Celine didn't understand and people she'd never heard of. When Victoria finally excused herself, Lucien steered Celine toward the bar. "Well?" he said. "She hated me." "She was threatened by you. Different thing." Lucien ordered 2 glasses of wine. "You held your ground. You didn't apologize for existing. That's progress." I felt like a fraud. "Everyone at these events is a fraud. You're just new at it." He handed her a glass. "The secret is that confidence isn't real. It's a performance everyone agrees to believe. Once you understand that, you stop being afraid of people who perform better than you." They stayed at the gallery for another hour. Lucien introduced Celine to bankers and artists and lawyers who all smiled with teeth and asked questions designed to trap her. Every conversation felt like combat, but slowly, incrementally, Celine started to understand the rules, started to see the patterns. By the time they left, she was exhausted, but something had changed. She'd survived. On the drive back to the penthouse, Celine stared out the window at the city lights and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this alive. Terrified, yes. Out of her depth, absolutely. But alive. "Tomorrow's going to be harder," Lucien said. "Why?" "Because you're going to practice saying no to me." Celine looked at him. "What?" "You agree to everything. It's a survival instinct. Say yes, and maybe people won't hurt you. But people like Damien, they smell that weakness. They use it." Lucien pulled the car into the building's underground garage. "So tomorrow, your job is to refuse me. Every request I make, you say no. We'll see how long it takes before you mean it." The next morning started the same way, 6 a.m. in the gym. But this time, when Lucien told Celine to run on the treadmill, she said no. "What?" Lucien said. "No, I don't want to run today." "I don't care what you want. Run." "No." Lucien's jaw tightened. "Celine, no." They stared at each other. Celine's heart was trying to climb out of her chest, but she didn't look away. Didn't apologize, just held her ground. Finally, Lucien smiled. "Good. Now run anyway. But you held the no. That's what matters." They did it all day. Lucien asked her to fetch him water. No. Asked her to move furniture. No. Asked her opinions on things he clearly already knew. No. Every time, Celine felt the instinct to cave, to apologize, to make herself agreeable, and every time she swallowed it and held firm. By evening, she was shaking with adrenaline, but something fundamental had shifted. The word no didn't feel like a weapon anymore. It felt like a tool, something she could use without guilt. "Better," Lucien said that night over dinner. "You're starting to understand that you don't owe anyone your compliance. Not even me." "What happens when we go to the wedding?" Celine asked. "What if Damien says something and I freeze?" "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because I've watched you for 9 days. You're stronger than you think. You just needed someone to prove it to you." Lucien leaned back in his chair. The woman who walked into the cathedral was broken. The woman sitting across from me now, she's dangerous. Celine felt something warm and terrifying bloom in her chest. "I don't feel dangerous." "You will." That night, Celine lay in bed staring at the ceiling and thought about the girl she used to be. The one who'd loved Damien without question. Who'd believed in fairy tales. Who'd thought being good and kind and selfless would be enough to make someone stay. That girl was gone. Lucien had taken her apart piece by piece and built something new in her place. Something harder. Something that didn't apologize for taking up space. Celine wasn't sure if she should be grateful or terrified. Maybe both. On day 11, Lucien took her to the kind of restaurant where senators ate dinner and business deals were brokered over dessert. They were seated at a corner table with a view of the entire room. Halfway through the meal, a man approached their table. Tall. Silver hair. Expensive suit. The kind of man who looked like he'd been born powerful. "Lucien," the man said. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Senator Carver." Lucien didn't stand, didn't offer his hand, just looked up with those cold gray eyes. "How's the campaign?" "Complicated. You know how it is." Carver's gaze shifted to Celine. "And who's this?" "None of your concern." The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. Carver's smile went brittle. "Of course. Enjoy your meal." He walked away. Celine exhaled slowly. He's important, isn't he? She said. He thinks he is. Difference matters. Lucian cut into his steak. Men like Carver build their power on the illusion that everyone needs them. The moment you show you don't, the illusion cracks. Is that what you did? I reminded him that I know where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking. Mostly. Celine wasn't sure if he was joking. 2 days before the wedding, Lucian changed the routine. Instead of training, he told Celine to get dressed, formal attire, and meet him in the living room. When she emerged wearing the black dress from the boutique, Lucien was waiting in a suit that made him look like death wearing Armani. He held out his hand. We're practicing, he said. Practicing what? How to be seen together. He led her to the center of the massive living room, put one hand on her waist and took her other hand in his. Started moving slowly, not quite dancing, but something close. At the wedding, Lucien said, everyone will watch how we interact. They'll look for cracks, signs that we're faking. Your job is to make them believe we're real. How do I do that? You stop acting. You stop thinking. You just exist in the moment. His hand tightened slightly on her waist. Look at me. Celine looked up. His eyes were closer than she'd realized. Storm gray and intense and completely focused on her. When you look at me, Lucien said quietly, I want you to look at me like I'm the only person in the world who matters, like everyone else is background noise. Can you do that? Celine swallowed hard. I think so. Don't think. Do. They moved through the empty living room with the city lights stretched out below them like fallen stars. Lucien's hand was warm through the fabric of her dress. His presence was overwhelming, the scent of his cologne, the controlled strength in the way he moved, the absolute certainty that radiated from him like heat. Celine tried to do what he'd asked, tried to look at him like he was the center of gravity. And somewhere in the trying, she realized she wasn't pretending anymore, that looking at Lucien Draven didn't feel like performance. It felt like standing too close to a fire. Dangerous. Addictive. There, Lucien said softly. That's what I needed to see. What? You stopped performing. You just felt. He stepped back, breaking the moment like dropped glass. Remember that. At the wedding, when you look at me, I want exactly what I just saw. Celine's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her sides. What did you see? Lucien's expression went carefully blank. Something believable. That's all that matters. But his voice carried something underneath the words. Something that sounded almost like a warning. The night before the wedding, Celine couldn't sleep. She stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows watching the city breathe. Millions of lights, millions of lives, millions of people who had no idea tomorrow she was going to walk into her worst nightmare and pretend it didn't terrify her. Can't sleep? She turned. Lucien stood in the doorway wearing black pajama pants and nothing else. In the dim light, she could see scars across his ribs. Old wounds that had healed wrong. Evidence of a life lived violently. I keep thinking about tomorrow, Celine admitted. What if I freeze? What if I see Damien and remember why I loved him and forget why I'm doing this? Lucien crossed the room to stand beside her. Then you remember what he did to you, how he made you feel, how small you were when you walked into my office 2 weeks ago. He looked at her. You're not that woman anymore. What if I am? What if this is all just costume? It's not. Lucien's voice was certain, absolute. I've rebuilt enough people to know. The woman you are now, she was always there. I just helped you remember her. Celine met his eyes. Why did you really agree to help me? It wasn't because of the ring. It wasn't even because you were bored. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost human. Because when you walked into my office, he said, you looked at me the way everyone looks at me, like I was something to be afraid of. But you asked me for help anyway. You were terrified, but you didn't run. That kind of courage is rare. I wanted to see what would happen if someone nurtured it instead of crushing it. And you're going to walk into that wedding tomorrow and make everyone who ever underestimated you regret it. Lucien turned toward the window. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He left before Celine could respond. She stood alone in the dark and realized with sudden, terrible clarity that she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. She was afraid of what came after, afraid of going back to her old life, afraid of losing the version of herself she'd become, afraid of not seeing Lucian Draven anymore. That thought should have terrified her. Instead, it just made her feel hollow, like something vital had shifted in the last 2 weeks, and she couldn't unshift it. Celine went to bed, didn't sleep, watched the ceiling until dawn bled gray light through the windows, and it was time to get up and become someone unforgettable. The wedding was at 3 p.m. at the Belmont estate, a mansion on the north side where old money went to pretend it was still relevant. Celine spent the morning getting ready with the kind of careful precision you use before going to war. Hair pulled back into something elegant, makeup sharp enough to cut. The midnight silk gown Lucian had commissioned from a designer whose name Celine couldn't pronounce. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Lucien appeared in her doorway at 2 o'clock. He wore a charcoal suit that fit like it had been grown on his body. His hair was slicked back. His expression was unreadable. "Ready?" he said. "No." "Good. Fear makes you sharp. Use it." He held out his hand. "Let's go remind them you exist." They drove to the estate in silence. By the time Marcus pulled up to the valet stand, Celine's heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. "Remember," Lucian said as the valet opened her door, "you're not here to apologize. You're here to be seen. Everything else is just noise." Celine took his offered hand and stepped out into the afternoon light. The Belmont estate rose before them like something out of a Gothic nightmare, all stone and iron and 100-year-old trees. Other guests were arriving in expensive cars, women in gowns that cost more than Celine used to make in a year, men in suits that whispered old family money. And every single one of them turned to stare when Lucian Draven walked past with a woman on his arm they'd never seen before. Celine kept her spine straight, kept her eyes forward, let Lucian guide her up the stone steps toward the entrance where Damien's new life was waiting to swallow her whole. But at the threshold, just before they stepped inside, Lucian leaned close and whispered in her ear, "Show them who you are." Celine took a breath. Then she walked through the doors into the ballroom where everyone she'd ever wanted to forget was waiting to see if she'd finally disappeared. Instead, they saw a woman who looked like she could end worlds without raising her voice. And standing beside her, the man whose name made senators nervous and rival crime lords sleep with lights on, was looking at her like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. The wedding hadn't even started yet, but Celine Vale had already won. The ballroom looked like someone had spent a fortune trying to convince people they had taste. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings painted with cherubs and clouds. White roses everywhere, on tables, wrapped around columns, cascading down the walls like expensive waterfalls. A string quartet played something classical in the corner. 200 guests in formal wear clustered in groups, holding champagne flutes and pretending they weren't all watching each other for signs of weakness. Celine's heels clicked against marble as she entered beside Lucian. The sound seemed impossibly loud. Every head in the room turned, not gradually, all at once, like someone had pulled a fire alarm. She felt their eyes like physical weight, calculating, judging, trying to place her. And then recognition started rippling through the crowd in waves, whispers behind hands. Shocked expressions quickly smoothed over. Someone gasped, because everyone knew who Lucian Draven was. And seeing him here, at a society wedding, in a room full of people who spent their lives pretending the criminal underworld didn't exist, was like watching a wolf walk into a sheep convention. "Breathe," Lucien murmured without looking at her. Celine realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly, forced her shoulders back, let her gaze sweep across the room with the kind of detached interest Lucian had drilled into her over 2 weeks, like she was evaluating the guests and finding most of them wanting. A waiter appeared with a tray of champagne. Lucien took 2 glasses and handed one to Celine. His fingers brushed hers. The touch was brief but deliberate. Performance. Everything was performance. "Where is he?" Celine asked quietly. "Near the altar. Don't look yet. Let him come to you." "What if he doesn't?" "He will. Men like him can't resist confirming their importance." Lucien took a sip of champagne. "When he does, remember, you're not here to convince him of anything. You're here to let him see what he lost. There's a difference." Celine's hands wanted to shake. She tightened her grip on the champagne flute until her knuckles went white. They moved deeper into the room. People parted for them like water around a stone. A few brave souls nodded at Lucien. He ignored most of them, acknowledged one or two with the barest inclination of his head, each gesture calculated to establish hierarchy, to remind everyone that he existed in a different universe than they did. And Celine, walking beside him in a dress that cost more than her old monthly salary, felt the spillover of that power, felt people looking at her differently, not with pity or dismissal, with something else. Fear, curiosity, respect. Celine? The voice came from behind them, female, familiar. Celine turned and saw Amanda Chen, one of the paralegals from her old office. They'd been friendly once, lunched together sometimes, small talk by the coffee machine. Then Damien had dumped Celine, and Amanda had stopped making eye contact in the hallways. Amanda, Celine said, kept her voice neutral. Amanda's eyes kept darting to Lucien. Lucien like he was a bomb that might detonate. I didn't know you'd be here. I thought... She caught herself. You look amazing. Thank you. Are you... is this... Amanda gestured vaguely at Lucien. Lucien Draven, Lucien said. His voice was polite, empty, the kind of politeness that felt like a threat. You are? Amanda, I used to work with Celine. Amanda's face flushed. It's nice to meet you. Lucien didn't respond, just looked at her with those cold gray eyes until Amanda's smile crumbled. I should go, Amanda said. It was good seeing you, Celine. She disappeared into the crowd. Celine watched her go and felt something twist in her chest. Not quite satisfaction, something darker. You enjoyed that, Lucien observed. Should I feel guilty? Do you? Celine thought about all the times Amanda had walked past her desk without speaking after Damien's engagement announcement. All the carefully averted gazes, the way their friendship had evaporated the moment Celine became an embarrassment. No, Celine said. Good. Don't apologize for taking up space. Not anymore. They claimed a spot near the windows overlooking the estate gardens. From here, Celine could see the altar where Damien would marry Senator Whitmore's daughter in less than an hour. White silk draped everywhere. Flower arrangements that probably cost more than Celine's car. A photographer setting up equipment with the kind of reverence you'd use handling explosives. There, Lucien said quietly. Celine followed his gaze. Damien Holloway stood near the altar talking to a group of men in expensive suits. He looked exactly how she remembered. Tall, handsome in that clean-cut way that made mothers trust him. Sandy hair styled perfectly. A smile that had once made Celine's heart skip. Now it just looked plastic. As she watched, Damien laughed at something one of the men said, clapped him on the shoulder, played the role of gracious groom with practiced ease. Then his gaze swept across the ballroom and landed on Celine. His smile froze. Actually froze mid-laugh, like someone had pressed pause. Celine felt Lucien's hand settle on her lower back. Warm, possessive. The touch was for show, but her body didn't care. She felt heat spread from the point of contact. Here we go, Lucien murmured. Damien excused himself from his group and started walking toward them. His expression cycled through emotions too fast to track. Shock, confusion, anger, something that might have been fear. By the time he reached them, he'd settled on forced pleasantness. Celine, he said, I didn't expect to see you here. Damien, Celine kept her voice even. Congratulations. Thank you. His eyes shifted to Lucien. I don't believe we've met. No, Lucien said, offered nothing else, just stood there radiating menace like background radiation. Damien's jaw tightened. And you are? With her. Lucien's hand pressed slightly firmer against Celine's back. That's all you need to know. The temperature dropped. Celine could see Damien struggling, trying to place Lucien, trying to figure out if he should be worried. Then recognition flickered across his face and went pale. Jesus Christ, Damien breathed. You're... Careful, Lucien interrupted. His voice was soft, almost gentle. You're at your wedding. Probably not the best time to make a scene. Damien looked at Celine like she'd grown a second head. What the hell are you doing with him? Isn't it obvious? Celine said. We're together. That's not... You can't... Damien grabbed her arm. Celine, listen to me. You need to leave, right now. Do you understand who this man is? Lucien moved. It wasn't dramatic, Just a shift of weight, and suddenly his hand was on Damien's wrist, applying pressure that made Damien's fingers go white, made him let go. "Don't touch her," Lucian said quietly. "This is my wedding, and we're guests. Unless you'd like to make this interesting by asking us to leave." Lucien's smile was terrible. "I'm happy to discuss it with your future father-in-law. Senator Whitmore and I have some mutual interests. I'm sure he'd love to hear how his new son-in-law can't control his temper at his own reception." Damien's face flushed red. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm stating facts. You grabbed my girlfriend without permission. I corrected your behavior. If that feels like a threat, maybe examine why." "Girlfriend?" Damien looked at Celine again. "You're actually with this—" "Choose your next words very carefully," Celine said. Her voice was ice. "Because I promise you won't like what happens if you finish that sentence." Something in her tone made Damien step back. He looked at her like he'd never seen her before, like the woman standing in front of him was a stranger, wearing Celine's face. "You've changed," he said. "You just never paid attention." "That's not fair. J'étais pas there." "Fair?" Celine laughed. It came out sharp, cutting. "You dumped me because your father told you I wasn't good enough. You announced your engagement 2 weeks later like I was nothing. You destroyed my reputation because letting me go quietly wasn't enough. You needed everyone to know I was the mistake. And you're talking to me about fair? I tried to protect you. By humiliating me? By making sure everyone knew I wasn't worth keeping?" Celine stepped closer. Damien actually flinched. "You didn't protect me. You erased me. And now you're angry because I refused to stay erased. This isn't you talking. Damien gestured at Lucian. "He's manipulating you, using you. Whatever you think this is, it's not real." "Does it matter?" Celine asked. "Real or not, I'm here. Standing in your wedding, wearing a dress that costs more than you spent on my engagement ring. Dating a man who makes senators nervous. While you're about to marry someone your father picked like you're still 12 years old and need daddy's approval." She smiled. "So who's really being manipulated, Damien?" Damien opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Lucien like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out what. "You should get back to your bride," Lucien said. Not unkindly, just stating fact. "People are starting to stare." Damien glanced around. He was right. Half the ballroom was watching them with poorly concealed interest, whispers spreading like wildfire. "This isn't over," Damien said. "Yes, it is," Celine said. "It was over the moment you decided I wasn't enough. Everything else is just you realizing you were wrong." Damien turned and walked away. His shoulders were rigid, angry. Celine watched him rejoin his groomsmen and felt something release in her chest. Not satisfaction, not quite. More like the feeling of setting down weight you'd been carrying so long you forgot it was there. "How do you feel?" Lucian asked. "I don't know. Empty, maybe. Like I thought that would fix something, but it just ended." "That's because revenge doesn't fix anything. It just proves you survived." Celine looked up at him. "Did I do what I came here to do?" "You made him doubt himself in front of 200 people. You showed him exactly what he lost. And you did it without breaking." Lucien's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Yes, you did what you came here to do." The ceremony started 15 minutes later. Everyone filed into the garden where chairs had been set up beneath a white pavilion. Celine and Lucien claimed seats in the back, not hiding, just observing. Damien stood at the altar looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. His bride appeared at the far end of the aisle in a dress that probably cost more than Celine's college tuition. Caroline Whitmore, 24, blonde, beautiful in that generic way that graced magazine covers and political campaign posters. She looked happy. Or maybe she was just good at performing. The ceremony was standard. Vows that sounded like they'd been written by committee. Rings exchanged. A kiss that looked more obligatory than passionate. Everyone clapped. The photographer captured everything from a dozen angles. Celine sat through it without feeling much of anything. She'd expected rage, or grief, or something big enough to justify 2 weeks of preparation. Instead, she just felt tired. "You're quiet," Lucien said as guests started moving toward the reception tent. "I thought this would hurt more." "Maybe you already grieved. Sometimes, by the time you get revenge, you've moved past needing it." "Then what was the point?" Proving to yourself you could. That's not nothing. They followed the crowd to the reception tent. More crystal, more flowers. Tables set with china that looked too expensive to actually eat off. A dance floor in the center. A band setting up in the corner. Lucian steered them to a table near the edge. Far enough from the wedding party that they wouldn't have to make small talk. Close enough that everyone would see them. Dinner was elaborate. 7 courses served with wine pairings Celine couldn't tell apart. She pushed food around her plate and half listened to speeches from Damien's best man and Caroline's maid of honor. All of them said the same thing. Perfect couple. Perfect future. Destined to be together. Celine wondered if anyone actually believed it. After dinner, the dancing started. Damien and Caroline took the first dance alone. Then parents joined. Then the wedding party. Finally, the floor opened to everyone. Lucien stood and offered his hand. "One dance, then we leave." "I don't know if I can." "You can. Come on." Celine let him lead her onto the floor. His hand found her waist. Her hand found his shoulder. They moved in slow circles while the band played something romantic and meaningless. "Everyone's watching us," Celine said. "Let them." "I thought the point was to make Damien jealous. We did that. We can go. The point was to show you that you're worth seeing. Mission accomplished." Lucien pulled her slightly closer. "But right now, I'm dancing with you because I want to, not because of some deal." Celine looked up at him. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes held something she couldn't name, something that made her chest tight. "Lucien, don't," he said quietly. "Don't ask questions you're not ready to hear answers to." They finished the dance in silence. When the song ended, Lucien stepped back and adjusted his cuffs, professional distance reasserting itself. "I need to make a call," he said. 5 minutes, then we leave." He disappeared into the crowd. Celine stood on the edge of the dance floor feeling suddenly exposed, vulnerable, like whatever protection Lucien's presence provided had evaporated the moment he walked away. Celine Vale. She turned. A woman approached wearing a silver dress and a smile that didn't match her eyes. Victoria. The PR executive from the gallery opening. "Victoria," Celine said, "I didn't know you'd be here. Caroline's family retains my firm. I go to all their events." Victoria's gaze swept over Celine. "You're making quite an impression, showing up with Lucien Draven. Very bold or very stupid. I haven't decided which." "Does it matter?" "Only if you want to survive what comes next." Victoria moved closer, lowered her voice. "Do you have any idea what you're playing with? Who he is? What he does?" "I know enough." "You know rumors. Let me give you facts. Lucien Draven runs half the criminal infrastructure in this city. The legitimate businesses are fronts. The charity work is money laundering. 3 years ago, a journalist tried to expose his operation. They found her car at the bottom of the river." Victoria's smile sharpened. "So when I see a girl like you, someone with no connections, no protection, no experience, walking around on his arm like you're special, I worry, because girls like you have a tendency to disappear." "Man, Brian. Thanks for the concern," Celine said. "I'll keep it in mind. I'm serious. Whatever deal you made with him, whatever he promised you, it's not worth your life." "Why do you care?" "Because I've seen this before. Pretty girl thinks she can handle a dangerous man, thinks she's different, special, that he'll protect her. Then one day she vanishes and everyone pretends she never existed." Victoria's expression went cold. "Walk away while you still can. And if I don't want to, then you're a fool. And Darwin was right about fools." Victoria walked away. Celine stood there feeling ice spread through her chest. Not because Victoria's words scared her, because part of her, a small, quiet part she didn't want to acknowledge, wondered if Victoria was right. Lucien reappeared from the crowd. His expression was different, harder. Something in his posture had changed. "We need to go," he said. "Now." "What's wrong?" "Not here." "Car. Now." He grabbed her hand and pulled her through the crowd. Not rough, but urgent. They moved quickly through the reception tent, past guests who stared, out into the garden. Marcus was already waiting with the Mercedes running. "Get in," Lucien said. Celine climbed into the back seat. Lucien followed. Marcus pulled away before she'd even buckled her seatbelt. "What happened?" Celine demanded. Lucien was on his phone, texting someone rapidly. His jaw was tight. I got a call. Valentino Serrano's people followed us from the estate. They've been watching. Who's Valentino Serrano? Someone who wants me dead. And now that you've been seen with me at a public event with 200 witnesses, you're leverage. Lucien finished texting and looked at her. I'm taking you somewhere safe. You're going to stay there until I handle this? Handle what? Lucien, what's happening? What's happening is I made a mistake bringing you into my world, and now you're in danger because of it. So that's it? You're just going to lock me away somewhere? Yes. His voice was flat. Final. The deal's over, Celine. You went to the wedding. You faced Damien. Mission accomplished. But this, he gestured between them, ends tonight. Celine felt something crack in her chest. You're serious? I'm keeping you alive. That's what matters. No. What matters is you don't get to make decisions for me anymore. You don't get to teach me to be strong and then treat me like I'm breakable the moment things get hard. You don't understand what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. Tell me what's actually happening instead of just giving orders. Lucien stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned forward and told Marcus, Take us to the penthouse. Marcus glanced in his rearview mirror. Boss, if Serrano's people are watching, they already know where I live. Doesn't matter anymore. Take us home. The drive back felt longer than it should have. Traffic thickened as they crossed the river into the financial district. Rain started again, light at first, then harder. By the time they pulled into the underground garage, water was hammering the windshield like fists. Upstairs, Lucien went straight to the windows and stared out at the city. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders rigid. There's a war, he said finally. Has been for 6 months. Valentino Serrano controls the south side. Drugs, trafficking, things I don't touch. He's been trying to push into my territory, take my operations. I've been pushing back. People have died. More people are going to die. He turned to look at her. And now you're a target. Because Serrano's people saw us together, because they think you matter to me. Do I? Celine asked. Matter to you? Lucien's expression shuddered. That's not relevant. It's relevant to me. It shouldn't be. This was a business arrangement. 2 weeks. That's what we agreed to. That's what we agreed to at the beginning, before... Celine stopped, took a breath. You taught me not to apologize for existing, not to make myself small. So don't expect me to pretend the last 2 weeks didn't happen, that something didn't change. Nothing changed. You're lying. I'm protecting you, Appa thought. By pushing me away? By deciding I'm too weak to handle your world? Celine crossed the room toward him. I walked into the cathedral with nothing. You rebuilt me. You made me dangerous. And now you're treating me like I'm fragile because actual danger showed up? This isn't a game, Celine. These people don't make threats. They don't negotiate. If Serrano decides you're leverage, you'll disappear. They'll use you to get to me, and then they'll kill you because leaving witnesses is bad business. Then teach me how to survive it, like you taught me everything else. No. Why not? Because I can't... Lucien's voice cracked, actually cracked. I can't watch another person die because of me. I won't do it again. Celine stopped. Again? Lucien turned back to the window. When he spoke, his voice was different, hollowed out. Her name was Elena, my sister. She was 23, smart, studying law. She had nothing to do with any of this, with what I do, the life I lead, but someone I'd crossed found out about her anyway, used her to send me a message. His reflection in the glass looked like a ghost. I found her body in a warehouse on the east side. They'd made it last, made sure I'd know they enjoyed it. Celine felt like she'd been punched. Lucien, that was 8 years ago. I killed everyone involved. Every single person who touched her, who helped, who knew and didn't stop it. Took me 2 years, but I found them all. He finally looked at her. His eyes were empty. And I swore I'd never care about anyone again. Never give my enemies that kind of leverage. Then you walked into my office and I thought... He stopped, shook his head. Doesn't matter what I thought. Say it, Celine demanded. I thought I could keep you separate, compartmentalized, a temporary project, something to occupy my time. But somewhere in the last 2 weeks that changed, and now you're in danger because I was arrogant enough to think I could control it. Celine crossed the remaining distance between them, grabbed his arm, and forced him to face her. I'm not your sister. I'm not some innocent you need to protect from the world. You spent 2 weeks teaching me to be strong, to fight, to refuse to be erased. So don't erase me now just because you're scared. I'm not scared. You're terrified. I can see it. You're afraid that if I stay, Serrano will kill me, and you're afraid that if I leave, you'll go back to being alone. She held his gaze. But you don't get to make this decision for me. I chose to walk into the cathedral. I chose to make the deal. And I'm choosing to stay. You don't know what you're choosing. Then show me. Take me to wherever you plan your wars. Show me the screens and the maps and the soldiers. Let me see all of it. Because I'm done with you protecting me from reality. Lucian stared at her. Something worked behind his eyes. Some calculation she couldn't follow. Then he made a decision. She saw it happen. Saw the moment he stopped fighting. All right, he said. You want to see? Come with me. He led her to a door she'd never noticed before, hidden in the hallway behind what looked like a decorative panel. Lucien pressed his palm against a scanner. Something clicked. The panel swung inward, revealing a staircase leading down. This stays between us, Lucien said. What you see, what you hear, you tell no one. Ever. Understood? Yes. They descended. The stairs ended in a room that looked like something out of a spy movie. Banks of monitors covering every wall, computers humming, maps of the city overlaid with colored markers, a conference table covered in files and photographs. 3 people looked up when they entered. 2 men, 1 woman, all of them armed, all of them watching Celine with the kind of suspicion you give intruders. This is Celine, Lucien said. No explanation, no justification, just statement of fact. She's with me. Treat her accordingly. The woman spoke first. Boss, is that wise? I didn't ask for opinions. Lucien moved to the largest screen. Brief me. Where's Serrano? The woman approached the screen and started pulling up surveillance footage. Last confirmed location was the warehouse district, 3 hours ago. We lost the tail when they went through the east tunnel. Could be anywhere by now. Pull footage from every camera in a 5-block radius, traffic cams, security systems, private residences. I don't care. Find him. Already running it. Lucien turned to one of the men. What about the leak? Do we know who told Serrano about the wedding? Still working on it. Narrows down to 5 possibles. All lower level. None with direct access to you. Check their financials. If Serrano bought someone, there'll be traces. Lucian's jaw tightened. And when you find them, bring them to me. Alive. The man nodded and returned to his workstation. Lucien studied the maps on the wall. Red markers indicated Serrano's territory. Blue markers indicated his own. Yellow markers showed contested zones. Celine stood in the center of the room and felt the weight of it crash over her. This wasn't just criminal enterprise. This was war. Real war with casualties and collateral damage and people making life or death decisions from behind computer screens. You run all this? She asked. I coordinate it, protect it, make sure the people who work for me don't end up dead. Lucien glanced at her. Still want to stay? Yes. Why? Because walking away now would mean everything you taught me was a lie. And I don't think you're a liar. Something flickered across Lucien's face. Surprise, maybe. Or something softer. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it and went completely still. What? Celine asked. Lucien held up the phone. The screen showed a photograph. Celine leaning against Lucien's car outside her old apartment. The angle suggested it had been taken from across the street. Recently. The timestamp said 2 hours ago. Below the photo, a message. She matters. Good to know. They've been watching your apartment, Lucien said quietly. His voice had gone cold. Dangerous. They know where you live. Celine felt ice crawl up her spine. What does that mean? It means you can't go home. It means anywhere you used to go, your work, your friends, any familiar place, is compromised. Lucien looked at the woman by the monitors. Anya, run surveillance on Celine's building. Check for anyone watching. Anya's fingers flew over keys, screens flickered. Then she swore quietly. 2 men in a gray sedan, east side of the street. They've been there for 3 hours. Watching to see if she comes back, Lucien said. They want to grab her, use her against me. He turned to Celine. You can't leave here. Not until we end this. End it how? The only way wars end. Someone wins, someone loses. Lucian crossed to the conference table and spread out a map. Serrano operates out of a compound on the South Docks, heavily fortified. 20 men minimum, probably more. He's smart, paranoid, doesn't travel without security, but he's also arrogant. Thinks his reputation makes him untouchable. You're going after him, Celine said. Not a question. I'm going to remind him why people are afraid of me, and I'm going to make sure he understands that touching you means dying badly. One of the men at the workstation spoke up. Boss, if we move against the compound, it's open war, full escalation, the kind that brings federal attention. Then we do it quietly, fast, surgical. Lucien's finger traced routes on the map. We hit him where he lives, take out his infrastructure, make him understand the cost of touching what's mine. Celine's breath caught. I'm not yours. Lucian looked up. His eyes were storm gray and intense and completely focused on her. Aren't you? The room went quiet. Everyone else suddenly very interested in their computers. You said this was business, Celine said. A deal. 2 weeks and then nothing. I lied. Lucian's voice was raw, honest in a way she'd never heard before. I've been lying since the moment you walked into my office, and I told myself you were temporary. But the truth is I stopped sleeping because I was afraid you'd leave before morning. I started making excuses to train longer because I wanted more time. And tonight, watching you face Damien without breaking, I realized I don't want you to leave. I don't want to go back to the version of my life where you're not in it. He moved closer. So yes, you're mine, if you want to be. Celine couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, too hot, too much. You're saying this because you're scared I'll die. I'm saying this because you might. And if you do without knowing the truth, I'll never forgive myself. Lucian's hand came up to cup her face. Gentle, careful, like she was something precious. I'm not good at this, at being human, at caring about anything except survival, but you made me remember what it feels like, and now I can't unknow it. Lucien. The computer behind them started beeping, urgent, insistent. Anya swore again, louder this time. Boss, she said, you need to see this. Lucien turned. His hand left Celine's face but caught her hand instead, pulled her with him to the monitor. The screen showed surveillance footage from outside the cathedral. 4 SUVs pulling up. Men in tactical gear piling out, armed, moving with military precision. That's Serrano's team, one of the men said. They're hitting the cathedral. Why? Celine asked. Because they can't get to me here. So they're going after my businesses, sending a message. Lucien's expression went flat, empty, the look of someone calculating acceptable losses. How many people inside? Friday night, probably 60, 70, staff and customers. Get everyone out, now. Emergency protocols. Already on it. Lucien was already moving, grabbing a jacket from a hook by the door, checking a weapon Celine hadn't realized he was carrying. His entire demeanor shifted, from human to something else, something cold and efficient and designed for violence. You're going there, Celine said. Yes. Let me come with you. Absolutely not. Lucien. No. He turned to face her. You stay here, with Anya and the others. You don't leave this room. You don't open the door for anyone, not even me unless I give you the code word. What code word? Sapphire. If someone comes to that door and doesn't say Sapphire, you put a bullet in them. He pressed something into her hand. Cold. Metal. A gun. Safety's here. Point and shoot. Can you do that? Celine stared at the weapon. I don't know. Can you do that? Harder. More urgent. Yes. Good girl. He kissed her forehead. Quick. Chaste. Then he was moving toward the stairs. Marcus. With me. Everyone else. Fortress protocol. No one in or out until I get back. And if you don't get back? Anya asked quietly. Lucien paused at the bottom of the stairs. Then it's been nice knowing you all. He disappeared up the staircase. Celine stood there with a gun in her hand and her heart trying to climb out of her throat. Behind her, the monitors showed Serrano's men entering the cathedral, showed chaos erupting, showed violence spreading like fire. This was the world she'd chosen, the one Lucien had tried to protect her from. And now he was walking into it alone, because of her. "He'll come back," Anya said. She'd moved to stand beside Celine. "He always does." "How do you know?" "Because men like Lucien don't die easy. They die fighting, and he's not done fighting yet." Anya's expression softened slightly. "He cares about you. I've worked for him 5 years, never seen him care about anyone. So whatever happens tonight, know that he's fighting for you, not just against Serrano." Celine watched the monitors, watched Lucien's Mercedes peel out of the garage and disappear into the night, watched the city swallow him whole, and realized with sudden, terrible clarity that she'd fallen in love with a man who might not survive the night. The gun in her hand felt heavier than it should have. On the screen, the cathedral burned. The first hour crawled. Celine sat at the conference table with the gun beside her right hand and watched the monitors like they were going to tell her something useful. They didn't. Just showed empty streets, traffic cameras cycling through their programmed routes, the penthouse security feeds showing nothing but shadows. Anya worked the computers with the kind of focused intensity that suggested she'd done this before. Run surveillance while her boss walked into a war zone. The two men, Celine had heard their names but couldn't remember them now, monitored different screens. Radio chatter crackled low in the background, codes she didn't understand, updates that sounded like they were in another language. "Anything?" Celine asked for the 4th time. "Nothing new." Anya didn't look up. "Which is good. No news means no bodies." "That's not reassuring." "It wasn't meant to be." Celine stood up and paced. The room felt too small, the air too thin. She kept thinking about Lucien walking into the cathedral with Serrano's people already inside, about how many ways that could go wrong, about what his body would look like if he didn't come back. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it so fast she almost dropped it. Unknown number. The text was simple. "Step outside if you want him to live." Celine's blood went cold. She stared at the message, trying to make it mean something other than what it obviously meant. "What is it?" Anya was watching her now. "Nothing. Spam." Celine shoved the phone in her pocket. Her hand was shaking. Another message came through, this time with a photo attached. Lucien kneeling on concrete, blood on his face, a gun pressed to the back of his head. The timestamp said 8 minutes ago. The world tilted. Celine grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. "Celine!" Anya's voice was sharp. "What's wrong?" Celine pulled out the phone and showed her. Anya's expression went from concerned to horrified to coldly furious in about 3 seconds. "That's not possible. We have eyes on the cathedral. If they'd grabbed him..." She turned to the monitors, started pulling up different feeds. "Where was this taken?" "I don't know." "Forward it to me. Now." Celine's fingers fumbled over the screen, sent the image. Anya pulled it up on the main monitor and zoomed in, studying the background, the concrete, the shadows. "East Side Warehouse District," Anya said. "Near the docks. That's Serrano's territory." "How did they get him there?" "They didn't. He's not there. This is a fake." "What?" "Look at the shadows. The light source is wrong. And this blood," Anya zoomed in further, "is too bright, too red. Fresh blood oxidizes, goes darker. This is staged. Probably Photoshop. They're trying to get you to panic." "It's working." Another text. "You have 10 minutes. Come alone or he dies." "Don't respond," Anya said. "That's what they want. They want you scared, making bad decisions." "What if it's real? What if they actually have him?" "Then responding won't help. We need to verify his location first. Confirm he's actually at the cathedral." Anya grabbed her radio. "Unit 3, confirm visual on Draven." Static. Then a voice. "Confirmed. Target is mobile, currently at northwest entrance." "See?" Anya turned back to Celine. "He's fine. This is psychological warfare. Ignore it." But Celine's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Message after message. All variations of the same thing. "Come outside. Come alone. Save him." Each one with a different photo. Lucien's face from different angles. Always the same gun. Same blood. Same implication. "Block the number," Anya said. Celine did. Immediately, another text came through from a different number, then another, like they had an endless supply of ways to reach her. They're persistent, one of the men muttered. They're desperate. Anya's eyes narrowed, which means Lucien's winning. If they had the upper hand, they wouldn't need to resort to this. What do we do? We wait. We trust the plan. We don't give them what they want. Celine wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that Lucien knew what he was doing, that the photos were fake and the threats were empty, and everything would be fine if she just stayed put like she'd been told. But the gun on the table kept catching her eye. Heavy, real, loaded with the kind of permanence that made arguments irrelevant. The minutes stretched. 15, 20. Radio chatter continued. Updates that meant nothing to Celine, but made Anya's expression tighter, more worried. What's happening? Celine demanded. There's resistance, more than expected. Serrano brought reinforcements. Is Lucien okay? So far. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Celine's phone buzzed again. This time the message was different. Your choice. His life or your comfort. Last chance. And attached was a video, 30 seconds long, Lucien on his knees, someone off camera asking questions Celine couldn't hear, Lucien not answering. Then the sound of impact. Lucien's head snapping sideways, blood spraying. Celine watched it 3 times before she realized she'd stopped breathing. That's edited, Anya said, but her voice was less certain now. The timestamp is wrong, the metadata. What if it's not? Celine interrupted. What if we're wrong and they actually have him, and I'm sitting here doing nothing while they kill him? Celine, he came to that wedding because of me. He's at the cathedral because of me. If something happens to him because I was too scared to act, if you walk out that door, they'll grab you, use you as leverage, and then Lucien will do something stupid trying to save you and people will die. That's how this works. They know you care. They're exploiting it. Then what do I do? Anya didn't have an answer. The radio crackled. A voice Celine didn't recognize said, Man down. Northwest corner, medic needed. Anya grabbed the radio. Identify. Marcus, he's hit. Chest, bleeding bad. Celine felt the room spin. Marcus was Lucien's driver. His bodyguard. If Marcus was down, that meant, where's Draven? Anya demanded. Inside, lost visual when the shooting started. Get it back, now. Static, then nothing. Anya swore and started pulling up different feeds. The cathedral's interior cameras, exterior shots, satellite imagery. Anything that might show where Lucien was. But the screens showed chaos, smoke, people running, impossible to track individuals through the mess. Celine stood up, grabbed the gun, checked the safety like Lucien had shown her, flicked it off. What are you doing? Anya asked. Something stupid. Celine, don't. But Celine was already moving toward the stairs. Anya tried to block her path. Celine pointed the gun at her. Not threatening, just clear. Move. If you leave, I can't protect you. I'm not asking you to. Lucien will kill me if something happens to you. Then he'll have to survive long enough to do it. Celine stepped around her. The code word is sapphire. Don't open the door for anyone else. She took the stairs 2 at a time. Her heart was trying to punch through her ribs. At the top, she burst into the hallway and ran for the elevator. Hit the button. Waited. Each second felt like an hour. The elevator arrived. Empty. Celine stepped inside and pressed the button for the garage. The doors slid shut. The car descended smoothly. Too smoothly. Like the universe didn't understand that everything was on fire. In the garage, she found Lucien's backup car. A black Audi with keys in the ignition, because apparently even crime lords got lazy about security. Celine climbed in, started the engine. The garage door opened automatically. She pulled out into the rain. The streets were emptier than they should be, like the city knew something was happening and had the good sense to stay inside. Celine drove fast, but not recklessly. Getting pulled over would ruin everything. Her phone kept buzzing, Anya calling, Anya texting, Anya probably realizing she'd just lost the one person Lucien cared about keeping safe. Celine ignored it all. The cathedral was 15 minutes away. She made it in 10. Pulled up half a block away where she could see the entrance but wasn't immediately visible. The building looked wrong. Windows broken, smoke drifting from somewhere inside. Emergency vehicles in the distance getting closer. 3 bodies on the sidewalk covered with sheets. Celine's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She couldn't tell if any of them were Lu Xian, couldn't tell anything from here except that people had died and more were probably dying, and she'd driven into the middle of it without a plan. Her phone buzzed. Different number. New message. Smart girl. Now get out of the car and walk toward the alley on your right. Slowly. Keep your hands visible. Celine looked around. She couldn't see who'd sent it, couldn't see anyone watching. But they were there. Somewhere. She grabbed the gun, tucked it into the back of her waistband where her coat would hide it, opened the car door, stepped out into the rain. The alley was narrow, dark, trash piled against the walls, water pooled in the broken pavement. Celine walked slowly. Her footsteps echoed. Or maybe that was her heart, hard to tell. Halfway down the alley, a man stepped out from behind a dumpster. Tall, scarred face, gun pointed at her chest. "Stop there," he said. Celine stopped. Another man appeared from the opposite direction, cutting off her escape. This one was heavier, bald, also armed. "Where's Lu Xian?" Celine demanded. "You'll see him soon enough. Turn around. Hands on your head." Celine turned, felt rough hands pat her down. They found the gun immediately. The heavy man laughed. "Cute, you were gonna shoot us?" "If I had to." "With the safety on?" Celine's stomach dropped. She'd turned it off. She was sure she'd turned it off. But apparently panic made you remember things wrong. The scarred man grabbed her arm. "Let's go. Boss wants to meet you." They walked her deeper into the alley, through a door she hadn't noticed, into a building that smelled like mold and piss and fear. Upstairs that creaked, down a hallway with peeling wallpaper, through another door into a room that might have been an office once but now just held broken furniture and a man who looked like violence personified. Valentino Serrano sat behind a desk that had seen better decades. He was older than Lucien, 50s maybe. Silver hair slicked back, expensive suit that looked out of place in the wreckage, and eyes that made Celine think of sharks, cold, calculating, entirely focused on her. "Celine Vale," Serrano said. His voice was smooth, almost pleasant. "I was hoping you'd be smart enough to come." "Where's Lucien?" "Occupied. We're having a disagreement about territory, business things. Nothing for you to worry about." "The photos, fake, obviously, but effective. You're here, aren't you?" Serrano leaned back in his chair. "Sit." The scarred man pushed Celine into a chair facing the desk. She kept her hands in her lap to stop them shaking. "Do you know why you're here?" Serrano asked. "You're going to use me to get to Lucien." That would be the obvious play. Predictable. Lucien would expect it. "No, I have something better in mind." Serrano opened a drawer and pulled out a folder, tossed it across the desk. "Open it." Celine opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, bank statements, all of them with her name on them. Transactions she'd never made, accounts she'd never opened, money moving in patterns that looked damning even though she didn't understand them. "I don't know what this is," Celine said. "Money laundering through your name, your social security number, your identity." Serrano smiled. "For the past 6 months, you've been helping Lucien Draven move dirty money through legitimate channels. Real estate purchases, shell corporations, offshore accounts, all traceable back to you." "That's impossible. I didn't do any of this." "I know. Lucien did. He's been setting you up since before you walked into the cathedral, building a case that makes you look like his accomplice, his partner. And when the federal investigation finally drops, which it will, I've made sure of that, you'll take the fall while he walks away clean." Celine's vision blurred. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Look at the dates. Some of these transactions happened before you ever met him. He's been planning this for months. You were never part of his revenge scheme. You were the escape plan." Serrano leaned forward. "Lucien Draven doesn't care about you. He cares about survival, and you're disposable." "No." But Celine's voice was weak, uncertain. "He rebuilt you because he needed you confident enough to play the role convincingly. Taught you to be strong because strong people make better scapegoats. Made you fall in love with him because love makes you blind." Serrano's smile widened. "You're not his girlfriend. You're his insurance policy." Celine flipped through the documents, tried to find something that proved Serrano was lying, But every page showed more evidence, more accounts, more money, more proof that she'd been used. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I'm offering you a way out. Help me take down Lucien, testify about what he's done, give the feds everything they need to build a real case. In exchange, I'll make sure you walk away clean, new identity, new life, somewhere far from here where his reach doesn't extend. And if I refuse, then you go to prison while Lucien stays free, or you die tonight when my men blow up this building and everyone in it. Your choice." Celine stared at the folder, at the evidence of months of manipulation, at proof that everything she'd believed was a carefully constructed lie. "I need time to think," she said. "You have 10 minutes. Then I need an answer." Serrano stood and walked out. Left Celine alone with the scarred man and the heavy man and the weight of understanding that she'd been a fool from the beginning. She thought about the last 2 weeks, every moment replaying with new context. Lucien teaching her to be strong, not for her benefit, but for his. Making her visible, so she'd be a better target when everything collapsed. Telling her he cared, because people who thought they were loved didn't ask hard questions. The ring. He'd never taken the ring, had insisted on 2 weeks instead of 1 night because he needed time to build the paper trail, to make the frame complete. Celine felt something crack inside her chest, not her heart. That would have been cleaner. This was deeper. The foundation of who she thought she'd become, the belief that someone had seen value in her, that she'd been worth rebuilding, all of it a lie. The door opened. Serrano came back in carrying something. He set it on the desk between them. A laptop, already open, a video queued up. "Before you decide," Serrano said, "you should watch this." He hit play. The video showed Lucien in what looked like a private meeting, somewhere secure. He was talking to someone off camera. The audio was clear. "And Vale's been cooperative?" the voice asked. "More than I expected." That was Lucien. Definitely Lucien. "She believes everything, the attraction, the danger, all of it. And when the investigation starts, her name's on everything. Documents are airtight. She'll take the conspiracy charge while I'm clean. By the time she realizes what happened, it'll be too late to matter." "You're sure she won't talk?" "She's in love with me. People in love don't betray you until it's too late to save themselves. Basic psychology." The video ended. Serrano closed the laptop. Celine couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process the sound of Lucien's voice saying those words, confirming everything Serrano had told her. "Still need time to think?" Serrano asked. Celine stood up. Her legs felt like they might give out, but she forced them steady. "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Dates, locations, conversations, what he told you, where he operates from, security protocols, anything that helps me end him." Serrano pulled out a recorder, set it on the desk. "Start talking." Celine looked at the recorder, at Serrano's expectant face, at the scarred man and the heavy man watching her with the kind of interest you give things before they break. And she made a decision. "The penthouse has a hidden room," she said. Her voice sounded dead even to her own ears. "Behind a panel in the main hallway. That's where he runs everything. Computers, maps, security feeds, everything you'd need." "Access?" "Biometric scanner. Palm print. His right hand." "Security personnel?" 3 when I left. A woman named Anya. 2 men I didn't get names for. All armed. All loyal." "Vulnerabilities?" Celine described the layout. The blind spots. The places where someone could get in if they knew what they were doing. She described the garage, the elevator, the stairwell. Every detail Lucien had thought was safe to share because he believed she'd never betray him. Because she'd been in love with him. Past tense. Had been. Serrano listened and took notes and smiled like Christmas had come early. When Celine finished, he sat back and studied her. "You're very calm," he observed. "Most people cry when they find out they've been used." "I cried enough for Damien. I'm done crying for men who don't deserve it." "Good. Anger's more useful anyway." Serrano stood. "Here's what happens now. You're going to call Lucien, tell him you escaped, that you're scared, that you need him to come get you. When he does, my men will be waiting. And then? Then he disappears. And you testify, and we both get what we want." Celine's phone was on the desk where the scarred man had put it after taking it from her. She picked it up, unlocked it, pulled up Lucien's number. Her finger hovered over the call button. "One question," she said. "What?" "If I do this, if I help you kill him, how do I know you won't kill me after?" "You don't. But you know for certain what happens if you don't help me. Prison or death. At least this way you have a chance." Celine thought about Elena, Lucien's sister, the story he'd told her, how grief-stricken he'd sounded, how honest it had felt. Had that been a lie too? Or just manipulation dressed up as vulnerability? She hit the call button. The phone rang 3 times, then Lucien's voice. "Celine, where the hell are you?" "I left." Celine was surprised how steady her voice sounded. "I couldn't just sit there while you promised to stay put. That was the one thing. They sent me photos, videos. They said they had you." Silence. Then, "Where are you now?" "I don't know, some building, east side. I got away, but I'm lost and I don't—" Celine let her voice crack, let fear bleed through. "I need you to come get me. Send me your location. Stay where you are. I'm coming." "Lucien?" "What?" Say it, Celine thought. Tell him you know. Make him admit it. But instead she said, "Be careful." "Always am. Send the location." The call ended. Celine looked at Serrano. "He's coming." "Good girl." Serrano gestured to his men. "Set up on the perimeter. I want him alive if possible, dead if necessary. But I want him." The scarred man and the heavy man left. Serrano poured himself a drink from a bottle on the desk, offered one to Celine. She shook her head. "You're very composed for someone who just betrayed the man she loves," Serrano said. "Past tense." "Is it?" Serrano took a sip. "Or are you just telling yourself that to make this easier? Does it matter?" "I suppose not. Either way, he dies tonight." Celine walked to the window, looked out at the rain-soaked street below. Somewhere out there, Lucien was coming, driving fast through the city to save her, not knowing he was driving into a trap, not knowing she'd been the one to set it, because she had to believe Serrano was telling the truth, had to believe the documents and the video and the evidence were real, because if they weren't, if this was all manipulation, then she'd just murdered the only person who'd made her feel like she mattered. But the video, Lucien's voice, his words, she believes everything. "People in love don't betray you until it's too late." Those were his words, his voice. No editing could fake that. No manipulation could make him sound that callous unless he actually was. Unless. Celine's mind caught on something, replayed the video in her head. The words were right, the voice was right, but something about the rhythm was off. The pauses, the way Lucien's sentences structured. She turned away from the window. "Can I see that video again?" "Why?" "I want to hear him say it. Need to be sure." Serrano shrugged and pulled up the laptop. Hit play. Celine watched carefully this time. Listened not to the words, but to the spaces between them. The way the audio cut slightly between sentences. The way the video quality shifted almost imperceptibly during certain phrases. It was edited, skillfully, professionally, but edited. Taking real audio of Lucien saying things and stitching them together to create a narrative that didn't exist. "She believes everything" could have been, "She believes everything I tell her about the operation." "People in love don't betray you." Might have been, "People in love don't betray you, but we can't assume loyalty without verification." Context changed everything. And Serrano had removed all the context. Celine felt ice flood her veins. Not because she'd been wrong about Lucien. Because she'd been right. And she'd just given Serrano everything he needed to destroy the man she loved. "Something wrong?" Serrano asked. "No, just needed to hear it again." But her mind was racing, calculating, trying to figure out how to undo what she'd done, how to warn Lucien without Serrano realizing she'd figured out the deception. The window. 4th floor. Too high to jump, but maybe... Serrano's phone buzzed. He checked it and smiled. "He's 3 minutes out, right on schedule." He looked at Celine. "Any last words you want me to pass along before my men put him down?" Celine's hand moved to her coat pocket. Found something she'd forgotten was there. The sapphire ring. She'd taken it from the penthouse, hadn't even thought about why. Just grabbed it on the way out, the ring Lucien had never taken, had insisted was hers to keep. That didn't fit with Serrano's narrative. If Lucien had been setting her up, he would have taken the ring, used it as evidence of payment, of conspiracy. But he'd given it back to her, made sure she kept it, because he'd meant what he said, every word. And she'd just signed his death warrant. No last words, Celine said. Then she threw the ring at the window. The glass shattered. Alarm system screamed. Serrano lunged for her, but Celine was already moving. She grabbed the laptop and threw it at his face, connected hard enough that he staggered back. Then she was at the door. Through it, running down the hallway with shouting behind her. The stairs were at the end. She hit them at full speed, took them 3 at a time going down. Heard footsteps thundering behind her, heard Serrano screaming orders, but she didn't stop. Ground floor. She burst through the exit door into the alley. Rain hammered her face, made everything slippery, dangerous. A black Mercedes was pulling up at the mouth of the alley, Lucien's car. He was actually here, actually coming for her, and Serrano's men were positioned on the rooftops, in doorways, behind cover, all with weapons trained on the car. Celine screamed, "It's a trap!" Her voice got lost in the rain. Lucien couldn't hear her. He was getting out of the car, moving toward the building, walking right into the ambush. Celine ran, faster than she'd ever run. Her heels slipped on wet pavement, but she kept going. Reached Lucien just as the first shot rang out. She hit him. Full body tackle. Drove him sideways behind the cars. Bullets chewed apart the space where he'd been standing. Glass exploded. Metal shrieked. They hit the ground hard. Lucien on top of her, covering her with his body. "What the hell?" Lucien started. "I'm sorry." Celine was crying, actually crying. "I'm so sorry. He showed me evidence, and I believed him, and I told him everything, and I'm sorry." Lucien grabbed her face, made her look at him. His eyes were storm gray and intense, and entirely focused on her. "Are you hurt?" "No, but..." "Then stay down!" He pulled his weapon and returned fire. The sound was deafening. Celine covered her ears and pressed herself against the wet pavement. Above her, Lucien moved with mechanical precision. Shooting. Taking cover. Reloading. Like this was normal. Like getting ambushed in an alley was just another Tuesday. Tires screamed. More cars arriving. Lucien's people or Serrano's, Celine couldn't tell. The gunfire intensified. Someone was screaming. Someone else was shouting orders. The rain made everything chaos. Then hands grabbed Celine, pulled her up. She fought until she recognized Marcus. His chest was bandaged, but he was alive. Moving, dragging her toward cover. "Get her out of here!" Lucien shouted. "Not without you!" Celine yelled back. "Not negotiable! Marcus!" Oh. But Marcus was already moving, pulling Celine toward a different car. She fought him, tried to break free, but he was stronger and determined, and she couldn't. The explosion knocked them both flat. Celine's ears rang. Couldn't hear anything except high-pitched whining. She rolled over and saw fire. The building where Serrano had held her was collapsing. Floors pancaking into each other, dust and smoke billowing out. Lucien was on his feet, running toward her. His mouth was moving, but she couldn't hear what he was saying. He grabbed her, lifted her, started carrying her away from the destruction. They made it to Marcus's car. Lucien shoved her inside, climbed in after her. Marcus got behind the wheel and drove. Fast, reckless, away from the carnage. Celine's hearing slowly returned. First just muffled sounds, then voices. Then Lucien saying her name over and over like a prayer. "I'm okay," she managed. "I'm okay." "You're bleeding." She looked down. He was right, cut on her arm, probably from the glass. Didn't hurt yet, but it would. "What happened?" Celine asked. "The building. My people planted charges before Serrano moved in. Backup plan in case things went bad." Lucien's jaw was tight. "Which they did. Because you left the penthouse. Because you came here. Because you..." He stopped, took a breath. "Why?" He had evidence, documents, video of you talking about using me, about setting me up. It looked real. It wasn't. "I know, I figured it out. But not before I told him everything. The penthouse, the security, Anya. I gave him everything he needed to destroy you." Celine was crying again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You thought I was using you." Lucien's voice was flat. "Like Damien did." "Yes. And instead of asking me, you believed a man who's been trying to kill me for 6 months. The video sounded like you." I don't care what it sounded like. Lucian turned to look at her. His eyes were cold, distant, the way they'd been that first night in the cathedral. You gave up everything I built to protect myself, to protect you. You handed it to my enemy because you believed I was lying when I said I cared about you. Lucien, do you have any idea what you've done? Serrano knows about the war room now. He knows the protocols, the vulnerabilities. Every defense I had is compromised because you trusted him over me. I didn't know you didn't ask. His voice went quiet. Dangerous. That's worse. You made a choice without information, and that choice might have just killed everyone in that penthouse. Celine felt like she'd been gutted. Anya, I don't know. Can't reach her. Can't reach anyone. Marcus, head to the secondary location. We need to regroup. Marcus nodded and changed direction. They drove in silence. Celine wanted to say something, apologize again, explain. But what could she say that would fix this? She'd betrayed him, given his enemy the tools to destroy him, because she'd been too damaged from Damien to trust that someone might actually care about her. The secondary location was an apartment building on the west side. Industrial neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Marcus parked in an underground lot. They took stairs to the third floor. Lucien opened a door with a key hidden above the frame. Inside was a safe house. Minimal furniture, weapons in a lockbox, surveillance equipment, everything needed for a temporary stronghold. Lucien went straight to a computer and started trying to contact his people. Celine stood by the door feeling useless, feeling like she'd destroyed everything. After 15 minutes, Lucien swore and pushed away from the computer. Nothing. No response from anyone at the penthouse. Which means either they're dead, captured, or smart enough to go dark. What do we do? Marcus asked. We assume the worst. We assume Serrano has access to everything, which means we need to move. Now, before he uses what Celine told him to hunt us down. Where do we go? Out of the city. I have a property upstate. Isolated, defensible. We hole up there until I can figure out how much damage has been done. Lucien finally looked at Celine. You're coming with us. Not because I trust you, because leaving you here means you're leverage again. I don't want to be a burden. You are a burden. You became a burden the moment you left the penthouse. But you're my burden now, so you're stuck with me. Lucien's expression was carved from stone. And when this is over, when Serrano's dead and my operations are secure, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about trust and consequences. Celine nodded, couldn't speak. Just nodded and tried not to cry again because crying wouldn't fix anything. Marcus started packing supplies, weapons, ammunition, cash, everything they'd need for an extended disappearance. Lucien made phone calls to people Celine didn't know, giving orders, relocating assets, warning people to go dark, and Celine stood there understanding that she'd broken something that might not be fixable, not the operation. That was salvageable. Lucien would rebuild. He always did. But the thing between them, the fragile trust they'd built over 2 weeks, the belief that someone could see all of her, the damage and the weakness and the fear, and choose to stay anyway. She'd murdered that, as surely as if she'd put a gun to its head and pulled the trigger. Because when Serrano had shown her evidence that Lucien was using her, she'd believed it. Not because the evidence was good, because some part of her had been waiting for it, expecting it, knowing that eventually everyone left. And now Lucien was looking at her like she was a problem to be managed instead of a person worth caring about. She'd done that. Her choice. Her consequence. Marcus finished packing. We're ready. Good. Let's move. Lucien grabbed a bag, headed for the door, stopped and looked back at Celine. Coming? Do you want me to? What I want stopped mattering the moment you chose to trust my enemy over me. Now I just need you where I can see you. So yes, you're coming. They left the safe house, took the stairs down to the garage, got into a different car, an older model sedan that looked like it belonged to someone's grandmother. Deliberately unnoticeable, Marcus drove. Lucien sat in the front passenger seat, cleaning his weapon with mechanical precision. Celine sat in the back and watched the city disappear through rain-streaked windows. She'd come to Blackwater City invisible, had walked into the cathedral desperate and broken, had asked the most dangerous man she'd ever met to help her become someone people couldn't ignore. And he had. He'd rebuilt her into someone strong, someone dangerous, someone worth noticing. But in the process, she'd forgotten something important. Strength without trust was just armor. And armor didn't keep you warm, didn't make you less alone, just made it harder for people to reach you when they tried. Lucienne had reached her anyway, had seen through the armor to the terrified woman underneath, had cared about her despite knowing better. And she'd thrown it away because she was too scared to believe it was real. The city lights faded behind them. They drove north into darkness. Away from Serrano, away from the war, away from everything, but not away from the truth. Celine had made herself unforgettable, and now she was going to have to live with what that meant. The drive north took 3 hours through rain that never stopped. Celine watched the highway markers blur past and counted the ways she'd destroyed everything. The list got longer every mile. The safe house was 40 minutes past the last town worth naming, a cabin buried in woods so thick you couldn't see the road from the windows. Marcus killed the headlights half a mile out and navigated by memory through trees that scraped the car's sides like skeletal fingers. When they finally stopped, Lucien got out without a word, disappeared into the darkness. Marcus looked back at Celine. "Give him time," Marcus said. "He'll cool down." "Will he?" "Probably not, but time helps anyway." They carried supplies inside. The cabin was bigger than it looked from outside. 2 bedrooms, a main room with a fireplace, kitchen that looked functional, if not fancy. Everything covered in a layer of dust that said nobody had been here in months. Marcus started a fire. Lucien checked every window, every door, every possible entry point, moving through the space like a soldier securing a perimeter. When he finished, he grabbed a bottle of whiskey from a cabinet and disappeared into one of the bedrooms. The door closed with a sound like a coffin lid. "You should eat something," Marcus said. "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway. Going to be a long night." Marcus made sandwiches from supplies they'd brought. Celine forced herself to eat half of one. It tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like nothing, like her body had forgotten how to process sensation beyond guilt. "He told you about Elena," Marcus said. Not a question. "Yes." "Then you understand why he's taking this hard. Why trust matters to him more than most people." "I do. Celine set down the sandwich. "I made the wrong call. I let my past make me paranoid, and now people might be dead because I couldn't trust that someone actually cared about me." "Might be. We don't know yet." "Does that make it better?" "No, but it's something to hold on to until we know for sure." Marcus finished his food and checked his phone. No signal. They were too far from civilization for towers to reach. Completely isolated. Which was the point, but it also meant no way to know what was happening back in the city. "I'm going to sleep," Marcus said. "Wake me if anything happens." He took the couch. Within 10 minutes, he was snoring, the kind of deep sleep that came from years of learning to rest whenever opportunity allowed. Soldiers training. Celine sat by the fire and watched shadows dance across the walls. The flames crackled. Outside, wind moved through the trees like whispered threats. Every sound made her jump. Every creak could be Serrano's men finding them. Every shadow could be the beginning of the end. Around midnight, Lucien's door opened. He came out carrying the whiskey bottle. 3/4 empty now, sat in the chair across from Celine without looking at her. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Don't want to. Every time I close my eyes, I see Anya's face. See her waiting in that war room, trusting me to come back, trusting the security measures I put in place. And then I remember that those measures are compromised because you gave them away." "I know. Do you? Do you actually understand what it means?" Lucien took a long drink. "Anya's worked for me 5 years. Loyal, competent. Never asked questions when I gave orders. Never hesitated when things got dangerous. She has a daughter, 8 years old. Lives with Anya's mother because this life is too dangerous for children. Anya sends most of her money home so the kid can have a normal life." He finally looked at Celine. "If Serrano got to her because you gave him access, that little girl grows up without a mother. Because you couldn't trust me." Celine felt like she was being flayed alive. "I'm sorry." "Stop saying that. Sorry doesn't bring people back." "Then what do you want from me?" "I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that when you make decisions based on fear instead of facts, people die. I want you to feel that, really feel it. So maybe next time you'll think before you run. There won't be a next time. You're right, there won't, because after this is over, you're done. With me, with this life, with all of it. Lucian set the bottle down. I'll make sure you're safe. Get you relocated somewhere Serrano can't find you. Give you enough money to start over, but we're done. Celine's throat closed. That's it? Just done? What did you expect? That I'd forgive you? That we'd move past this and everything would be fine? Lucian laughed, sharp, bitter. You broke the one thing I needed from you, the only thing that mattered. I can't build a life with someone who doesn't trust me. Can't love someone who believes I'm lying every time things get hard. I made a mistake. Oh, you made a choice. There's a difference. Mistakes are accidents. You chose to believe Serrano, chose to give him information, chose to betray me. He stood up. Own it. Don't hide behind calling it a mistake. He went back to his room, door closed. Bottle went with him. Celine sat by the fire until dawn bled gray light through the windows and the flames died to embers. She didn't sleep, didn't cry, just sat there understanding that she'd burned down something that couldn't be rebuilt. Marcus woke around 6, made coffee, offered Celine a cup. She took it and wrapped her hands around the warmth without drinking. You look like hell, Marcus observed. Feel worse. He'll come around. Eventually. You heard what he said. We're done. He's going to pay me off and disappear. He said that while drunk and angry. Give him time to think clearly. What if clear thinking leads to the same conclusion? Marcus didn't answer, which was answer enough. Around noon, Lucien emerged, showered, dressed, looking like he'd actually slept even though Celine doubted it. He grabbed coffee and checked the windows again. Same routine as last night, securing the perimeter. We need to make contact, Lucien said. Find out what happened at the penthouse, whether anyone survived. How? Marcus gestured at his phone. No signal. There's a town 40 minutes south has a payphone. Old school but functional. Lucien grabbed keys. I'll go. You two stay here. Anyone comes near this place, shoot first. I should go with you, Marcus said. You're still healing. Chest wound, remember? You're staying. Boss? Not negotiable. Lucien left before Marcus could argue further. The car engine turned over. Tires crunched on gravel. Then silence. Marcus checked his bandages. The white gauze was spotted with red. Bleeding through. He'd been shot less than 12 hours ago and was moving around like it was a paper cut. Celine didn't know if that was impressive or insane. You should rest, she said. So should you. Can't. Try anyway. Going to need your strength if things go bad. Things are already bad. They can always get worse. That's the first rule of this life. No matter how bad it is, it can get worse. Celine went to the bedroom she'd been assigned, lay down on the bed fully clothed, stared at the ceiling. After an hour of not sleeping, she gave up and went back to the main room. Marcus was at the window, watching the trees. His gun was on the table within reach. See something? Celine asked. Always see something in woods this thick. Question is whether it matters. They waited. Minutes crawled. An hour passed. Then another. Lucien should have been back by now. Should have made his calls and returned. Something's wrong, Marcus said. Maybe the phone was broken. Maybe he had to go further. Maybe. But Marcus didn't sound convinced. He grabbed his phone. Still no signal. We need to move. Get somewhere with communication. Lucien said to stay here. Lucien's 2 hours overdue, which means either he's in trouble or we are. Either way, staying put is stupid. Marcus started packing. Weapons, ammunition, the essentials. Celine helped because doing nothing made the fear worse. They were halfway to the door when they heard it. Car engine, coming up the access road. Marcus killed the lights and moved to the window. That's not our car, he said. Lucien's car? No, different sound, heavier, multiple vehicles. Celine's stomach dropped. Serrano. Don't know yet, but we're not staying to find out. Marcus grabbed the bag. Back door. Now. They moved fast. Through the kitchen, out the back door, into the woods. The trees were so thick it was like stepping into a cave. Marcus led. Celine followed, trying to be quiet, trying not to think about how easy it would be to get lost out here, to wander until you died. Behind them, car doors slammed, voices, men shouting orders. Then the sound of the cabin door being kicked in. Marcus pushed deeper into the woods. Celine's feet slipped on wet leaves, branches grabbed at her hair, her lungs burned. But she kept moving because stopping meant dying. They ran for 10 minutes. 15. Until the voices faded and the only sound was their breathing and the rain still falling through the canopy. Marcus finally stopped, leaned against a tree. His bandages were soaked through, red spreading across his shirt. "You're bleeding," Celine said. Noticed. Marcus pressed his hand against the wound. "We need to keep moving. They'll spread out. Search the woods." "How did they find us?" "Don't know. Don't care. Only matters that they did." They kept walking, slower now because Marcus couldn't run anymore. He was limping, favoring his right side. Every breath sounded wet, painful. "You need a hospital," Celine said. "I need to keep you alive. Hospital comes later." "Marcus, shut up and move." They walked for another hour. The woods seemed endless. No landmarks, no trails, just trees and rain and the growing certainty that they were lost. Marcus's phone buzzed. He checked it. Signal. Weak but there. "Call Lucien, c'est pas..." Marcus dialed. It rang 4 times, then a voice that wasn't Lucien. "Hello, Marcus." Marcus's face went pale. "Serrano." "Very good. Your boss was kind enough to lend me his phone. Well, kind isn't the word. I took it after my men grabbed him in town. If you hurt him. Hurt him? No, I need him alive. For now. He's leverage." Serrano's voice was smooth, pleased. "But I'll trade him. For Celine Vale." Marcus looked at Celine. She grabbed the phone. "I'm here," she said. "Celine, good. You're surprisingly hard to kill. I admire that. But this game is over. You come to me. Alone. And I let Lucien go. Simple transaction." "How do I know you won't kill us both?" "You don't. But you know for certain what happens if you refuse. I kill Lucien slowly. Make sure he suffers. Make sure his last thoughts are about how you let him die." "Where?" "The warehouse district. East Docks. Building 17. You have 3 hours." The line went dead. Marcus took the phone back. "You're not going. He'll kill Lucien. He'll kill you both. That's how this works." "So what do we do?" Marcus thought for a long moment. Then he started walking. "We go, but not alone, and not the way he expects." They made their way back toward civilization. Took another hour. Marcus was barely standing by the time they reached the edge of a small town. Population maybe 2,000. The kind of place that still had a general store and a post office and 1 stoplight. Marcus found a payphone outside a gas station, made 3 calls. The first 2 lasted less than a minute. The third went longer. When he hung up, some of the tension had left his shoulders. "Help's coming," he said. "People loyal to Lucien. They'll meet us at the docks." "How many?" "Enough." Marcus leaned against the phone booth. His face was gray. "But we need to move. Clock's ticking." They stole a car from the gas station parking lot. Marcus hotwired it with practiced efficiency. Drove south toward the city with one hand on the wheel and the other pressed against his bleeding chest. "You're going to die before we get there," Celine said. "Probably, but I'll get you there first." Marcus glanced at her. "Lucien would do the same for me, for any of us. He takes care of his people. That's why we're loyal. Even after what I did? You made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Difference is whether you learn from them." Marcus coughed, spat blood. "Are you going to learn?" "Yes." "Good. Then maybe you're worth saving after all." They drove for 2 hours. The city appeared on the horizon like a collection of broken teeth. Gray, industrial, hostile. Marcus navigated surface streets toward the docks. The rain had stopped, but the sky stayed dark, threatening more. Building 17 was exactly what Celine expected. Old warehouse, corrugated metal walls, windows either broken or boarded. The kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. 3 cars were parked outside. Expensive. Black. Serrano's style. Marcus parked a block away. Checked his weapon. "The others will be here soon. We wait for them." "We don't have time. We make time. Going in alone is suicide." Celine looked at the warehouse. Somewhere inside, Lucien was tied up or beaten or worse. Every minute they waited was another minute he suffered. "I can't just sit here," she said. "Then check the perimeter, look for other entrances, but don't engage, you hear me? Don't do anything stupid." Celine got out of the car. Marcus stayed behind. Too weak to move, too stubborn to admit it. She circled the building, found 2 other entrances. Side door, backloading dock. Both could work. Both were probably watched. Celine's mind raced, calculated options. 3 hours, Serrano had said. They'd used 2 getting here, 1 hour left, and Marcus's reinforcements weren't here yet. She could wait. Hope they arrived in time. Hope Marcus didn't bleed out in the car. Hope Serrano didn't get impatient and kill Lucien before the trade. Or she could act. Celine thought about everything Lucien had taught her. How to read a room, how to identify power, how to use people's expectations against them. Serrano expected her scared, expected her to come in begging for Lucien's life, expected weakness, so she'd give him strength instead. Celine went back to the car. Marcus was unconscious, still breathing, but barely. His phone was on the seat beside him. She took it, checked the last call, found the number for Lucien's people. She sent a text. "Change of plans. Wait for my signal. When you hear gunfire, come in loud." Then she grabbed Marcus's backup weapon from the glove box. Checked the magazine. Full. 15 rounds. Not enough for a war, but enough for what she had in mind. Celine walked to the front entrance of the warehouse, knocked on the door like she was selling something. A slot opened. Eyes appeared. "Who are you?" "Celine Vale. I'm here for the trade. Tell Serrano I came alone like he asked." The slot closed. Locks clicked. The door opened. 2 men with guns gestured her inside. The warehouse was mostly empty. Open floor plan with support columns every 30 feet, crates stacked along the walls, and in the center, beneath a single hanging light, Lucien knelt on the concrete with his hands zip-tied behind his back. He looked bad, face swollen, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. But he was alive, alert. When he saw Celine, his expression went from surprise to rage to something else. Something that might have been pride. Serrano sat in a folding chair like it was a throne, watching, smiling. "Celine Vale," he said. "Punctual. I appreciate that. I'm here. Let him go. In time. First we talk. About loyalty. About choices. About consequences." Serrano gestured at Lucien. "Your boyfriend here has been very quiet, stoic. I've been explaining to him how you betrayed him, how you gave me everything. He doesn't seem surprised." "Because I already knew," Lucien said. His voice was rough, damaged. "She told me. Explained what you showed her, how you manipulated her." "Manipulated?" Serrano laughed. "I showed her the truth, that you've been using her from the beginning. You showed her edited footage and fabricated documents, parlor tricks, and she believed them because her ex-fiancé taught her that men lie." Lucien met Celine's eyes. "But she figured it out, came back, tried to warn me, nearly got herself killed doing it." "Very touching. Doesn't change the outcome." Serrano stood. "Here's what happens now. You both die. Quickly if you cooperate, slowly if you don't. I take over your territories, absorb your operations, become the only power that matters in this city." "And the federal investigation?" Lucien asked. "The one you promised Celine would destroy me?" "Fiction. Useful fiction, but fiction nonetheless. The documents I showed her were real enough to fool her, but would never hold up in court. I just needed her to doubt you long enough to get what I wanted." Celine felt rage building, clean, pure, the kind that burned away fear. "You used me." "Everyone uses you, dear. I'm just honest about it." "Wrong. Lucien never used me. He rebuilt me, made me stronger, taught me that I was worth more than men like you understand." Celine's hand moved to her back, found the gun. "And now I'm going to show you what I learned." She pulled the weapon, fired 3 times before anyone could react. The first shot hit Serrano's shoulder, spun him sideways. The second hit one of the guards in the chest. The third went wide because someone tackled her. Celine hit the concrete hard, lost her grip on the gun, rolled, and came up fighting. Remembered every dirty trick Lucien had taught her during their training. She gouged eyes, bit the hand covering her mouth, kicked hard enough to feel something break. Gunfire erupted. Serrano's men returning fire. Bullets sparked off concrete, ricocheted off metal. The world became noise and chaos and the smell of gunpowder. Then more gunfire. Different direction. Lucian's reinforcements pouring through the doors. The signal Celine had promised. They came in loud and violent and professional, taking positions, laying down suppressing fire. Someone cut Lucian's zip ties. He grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and started moving, not towards safety, towards Serrano. Celine scrambled for her gun, found it, got to her feet. Her ears were ringing, her shoulder ached where she'd hit the ground. But she was alive, moving, fighting. She saw Serrano trying to escape through the back, limping, bleeding from his shoulder. His men were providing cover, but Lucien's people were better, more organized, pushing forward. Celine ran after Serrano. He made it to the loading dock, out into the open. Rain had started again. Thunder cracked overhead. "Stop!" Celine shouted. Serrano turned. He had a gun. Raised it toward her. She fired first. Hit him in the leg. He went down screaming. Lucien appeared beside her, his weapon trained on Serrano. "Stay down." "You won't kill me," Serrano said through gritted teeth. "Too many witnesses. Cops will be here soon." "I don't need to kill you." Lucien lowered his weapon. "You're already dead. You just don't know it yet." Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer, Lucien grabbed Celine's hand. "We need to go." They ran. Back through the warehouse, out the side entrance. Lucien's people were already pulling back, fading into the shadows, leaving Serrano's men for the police to find. Marcus was where Celine had left him, still unconscious. Lucien checked his pulse. "He's alive, barely. We need to get him to a doctor." "I know someone," one of Lucien's men said. "Off the books. 20 minutes from here. Go, now." They loaded Marcus into one of the cars. Celine and Lucien took another, drove fast through empty streets. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion, pain, the reality of what had just happened. "You came back," Lucien said. "Not a question. I figured out it was fake, the video, the documents, all of it. I'm sorry I believed it in the first place." "You had reason to. Your past taught you that men lie, that you can't trust them. I can't be angry at you for believing what your experience taught you. You said we were done. I was drunk and angry and terrified that you'd gotten yourself killed." Lucien's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "But watching you walk into that warehouse alone, knowing you were risking everything to save me, that changed things." "Changed them how?" "Made me realize that you do trust me, enough to bet your life on it. That's more than words. That's proof." He glanced at her. "We're not done. Not even close. But we need to have a serious conversation about communication, about asking questions instead of making assumptions, about giving people the benefit of the doubt before you hand their enemies everything." "I know, I will. I promise." They drove to an apartment on the south side. Run-down building, sketchy neighborhood. But the doctor who answered the door was professional, clean workspace, proper equipment. She took Marcus without questions and disappeared into a back room. Lucien and Celine waited, neither of them talking, too exhausted for words. After an hour, the doctor emerged. "He'll live. Wound opened up again, but I've stitched it properly this time. He needs rest, real rest, not running around playing soldier." "Can we move him, Lucien asked. "Not for 48 hours minimum. He stays here. I'll watch him." "We can't stay." "I know. Leave him with me. When he's stable enough, I'll get word to you." Lucien nodded, left cash on the table, more than enough to cover treatment and silence. Then he and Celine left. Outside, dawn was breaking. The rain had stopped. The city looked almost clean in the early light. Almost. "Where do we go?" Celine asked. "Penthouse. Need to check if anyone survived. If the security is compromised." They drove across the river to the financial district. The tower looked undamaged from outside. No signs of violence or forced entry. Lucien parked in the garage. They took the elevator up. The penthouse door was locked. Normal. Lucien used his key. They stepped inside, expecting the worst. Anya was sitting on the couch with a shotgun across her lap. She looked up when they entered. Relief flooded her face. "Boss, thank God. We've been trying to reach you for hours." "Phone's compromised. What happened here?" "Serrano's people never showed. We waited. Ran surveillance, nothing. Eventually figured out it was a diversion, that they were after you instead of the location. So the war room is secure? Completely. I moved us to secondary protocols anyway, just to be safe. But yes, we're secure. Lucien let out a breath he'd been holding for hours. And the others? Fine. Everyone's fine. Scared, but fine. Celine felt something crack open in her chest. Relief so intense it hurt. I thought I'd gotten everyone killed. You nearly did, Anya said. Not unkindly, just honest. But Serrano was smart. He knew hitting this location would bring the fight here. He wanted you isolated, wanted Lucien away from his support structure. She looked at Lucien. Did it work? Almost, but we're both still breathing, and Serrano's not. Lucien turned to Celine. You should rest. You look like you're about to collapse. So do you. I'll rest after I make sure everything's locked down. Go, sleep. I'll be there soon. Celine went to her room, stripped off clothes that smelled like smoke and fear, showered until the water ran cold. By the time she crawled into bed, she was shaking, not from cold, from delayed shock, from the weight of the last 24 hours crashing down all at once. She didn't think she'd sleep, but exhaustion pulled her under like a riptide. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows. Late afternoon, she'd slept for hours. Celine got dressed and found Lucien in the war room. He was on the phone, speaking low. When he saw her, he ended the call. Serrano's dead, he said. Bled out before the ambulance arrived. His organization's falling apart. Half his people are trying to cut deals with the feds. The other half are trying to kill each other for control. And us? We're clear. For now. The investigation Serrano threatened was always fiction. He had nothing real, just smoke and fear tactics. Lucien leaned back in his chair. But there will be more. There's always more. This life doesn't have clean endings, just pauses between crises. Is that what you want? More crises? What I want stopped mattering years ago. This is what I am, what I've built. I can't walk away even if I wanted to. Can I stay? Lucien looked at her for a long moment. That depends. Are you staying because you're afraid to leave? Or because you actually want this life? I want you, Celine said. The life comes with it. I understand that now. I understand that loving you means accepting danger, accepting that sometimes things will be hard and I'll be scared. But I also understand that you're worth it. Even after everything, especially after everything. Because you came back for me. Even after I betrayed you. Even after I gave Serrano everything, you still came back. I told you I cared about you. I don't say things I don't mean. I know that now. I should have known it then. Should have trusted you instead of trusting my fear. Celine moved closer. I can't promise I'll never doubt again. Can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise I'll ask questions before I act. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll trust that when you say you care about me, you mean it. Lucien stood, crossed the distance between them, took her face in his hands. I love you, not the version you were pretending to be, not the person I rebuilt, the real you, damaged and scared and strong enough to walk into hell to save me. That's who I love. I love you too, even the parts that terrify me. He kissed her, deep, honest, the kind of kiss that erased the last day and promised better ones ahead. When they finally pulled apart, Lucien's phone was ringing. He checked it. His expression went cold. What? Celine asked. One of my contacts in the police department. They found something at Serrano's compound during the raid. What kind of something? Lucien showed her the phone. The screen displayed a photo. Documents, files, all of them marked with Lucien's name, all of them containing evidence of crimes, real evidence, not Serrano's fabrications, actual proof of everything Lucien had done for the last decade. Serrano kept insurance, Lucien said quietly, in case anything happened to him. Instructions to release everything to law enforcement if he died. Can you stop it? No. It's already moving. My contact says warrants are being prepared. Federal task force assembling. They're going to come for me hard. What do we do? Lucien set down the phone, looked at Celine with eyes that held something she'd never seen before. Not fear, not quite. More like resigned acceptance of something inevitable. We run. he said. Pack light. Take only what matters. We have maybe 6 hours before they move. After that, we're ghosts. For how long? Maybe forever. Celine thought about her old life. The apartment. The job. The person she'd been before walking into the cathedral. All of it meaningless now. Irrelevant. Then let's go, she said. They started packing. Lucien made calls, liquidated assets, moved money to accounts that couldn't be traced, warned his people to disappear or distance themselves. Burned bridges he'd spent years building. Anya appeared in the war room. Boss, the feds just hit 3 of our locations. They're moving faster than we thought. How long do we have? 2 hours, maybe less, Lucien swore. Not enough time. Time for what? Celine asked. To get everything, to cover our tracks, to disappear properly. Lucien's jaw tightened. We're going to have to run now, before we're ready, before it's safe. Then we run now. Anya handed Lucien a bag. Cash. Documents. Everything you asked for. Cars waiting in the garage. I'll buy you as much time as I can. Anya, don't. You've taken care of us for years. Let us take care of you now. She looked at Celine. Keep him alive. I will. Lucien and Celine took the elevator down. The garage was empty except for a nondescript sedan. Keys in the ignition. Lucien drove. They made it 3 blocks before the first police car appeared behind them. No lights yet, just following. Lucien turned down a side street. The police car followed. They know, Celine said. Yeah, they know. More police cars appeared. Ahead of them now, behind them, boxing them in. Lucien accelerated. The engine roared. They blew through a red light. Horns blared. Civilian cars swerved away. The pursuit was on. Lucien drove like he was trying to kill them both. Through traffic, down alleys, over curbs. The city became a blur. Sirens wailed. Helicopters appeared overhead, spotlights cutting through the darkness. We can't outrun them, Celine shouted over the noise. I know. Then what are we doing? Buying time. They raced toward the docks, same area where they'd faced Serrano. Lucien pulled into a warehouse district, killed the engine, grabbed Celine's hand. Run. They ran through warehouses and shipping containers and narrow passages between buildings. Police were everywhere, voices shouting, dogs barking, the net closing. Lucien led her to the water. A boat was waiting, small, fast. Someone stood on the deck. Marcus, still bandaged but alive. Mobile. You're late, Marcus called. Been busy. Lucien helped Celine aboard. Where to? South, coast, then international waters. After that, we disappear. The boat's engine roared to life. They pulled away from the dock just as police cars arrived. Spotlights swept across the water. But they were already gone, swallowed by darkness and distance. Celine stood at the rail watching Blackwater City recede behind them. The lights, the chaos, the life she'd built over 2 weeks, all of it disappearing into the night. Lucien came up beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. Any regrets? He asked. Celine thought about it, about everything she was leaving, everything she'd lost, everything she'd become. No, she said. No regrets. Good. Because this is going to get worse before it gets better. How much worse? We're fugitives now. Wanted by law enforcement on 3 continents. We'll be running for years, maybe forever. Living in shadows. Always looking over our shoulders. He turned to face her. Last chance to walk away. I can have Marcus drop you somewhere safe. You could disappear. Start over without me. Celine looked at him, at the man who'd rebuilt her, who'd taught her to be strong, who'd walked into hell to save her and let her do the same for him. I'm not walking away, she said. I'm exactly where I want to be. Even if it means running forever? Especially if it means running with you. Lucien kissed her. And behind them, the city that had tried to destroy them both faded into memory. The boat cut through dark water toward an uncertain future. But Celine wasn't afraid anymore. She was free. And that was enough. The boat cut through black water for 3 hours before Marcus killed the engine. They drifted in silence beneath a sky so dark the stars looked like holes punched through fabric. The city was gone, just ocean and darkness and the sound of waves slapping against the hull. Why are we stopping? Celine asked. Marcus checked his phone. Waiting for confirmation. Need to know if the route south is clear or if they've got the Coast Guard looking for us. And if it's not clear, then we go east. Longer route, more dangerous, but it gets us where we need to go. Lucian was below deck checking supplies. Weapons, cash, false documents with names Celine didn't recognize. Everything needed for a life that didn't officially exist. When he came back up, his expression was grim. "We're light on everything," he said. "Had to leave most of it behind when they moved faster than expected. This gets us maybe 6 months if we're careful. After that, we'll need to access accounts or find work." "What kind of work?" Celine asked. "The kind you don't ask questions about." Marcus's phone buzzed. He read the message and swore. "Coast Guard's been alerted. They're running patrol patterns south of here. We're not getting through that way." "East, then," Lucian said. "East means international waters. Means we're going dark for 2 weeks minimum. No contact, no ports, just open ocean until we hit the shipping lanes. Can we make it? If the weather holds and the fuel lasts and nothing breaks." Marcus started the engine again. Big ifs. They turned east. The city's glow faded completely. Soon there was nothing but water in every direction. Celine had never felt so small. The ocean was infinite, indifferent. It didn't care about their problems or their plans. It would swallow them without noticing if they made one wrong move. The first night was the hardest. Celine tried to sleep below deck, but every sound made her jump. Every creak of the boat felt like something breaking. Every wave felt like the beginning of capsizing. She gave up around 3 a.m. and came back up to find Lucian at the wheel. Marcus was sleeping in the captain's chair. His bandages needed changing, but they didn't have proper medical supplies. "Can't sleep?" Lucian asked. "Too many thoughts." "Tell me one." Celine leaned against the rail. "I keep thinking about Damien, about the wedding, how that was only 2 days ago, but it feels like years, like I'm remembering someone else's life." "You are. The person who went to that wedding doesn't exist anymore. She burned up the moment you chose to stay instead of run. Do you regret it? Teaching me to be strong? If I'd stayed weak, stayed invisible, none of this would have happened. If you'd stayed weak, you'd be back in your apartment right now living half a life, wondering what could have been, dying slowly from safety." Lucian's hands tightened on the wheel. "I don't regret it, any of it, even the parts that hurt. We're fugitives because of me. We're fugitives because of choices we both made. Don't take credit for my decisions. I knew the risks, accepted them. This isn't your fault." But Celine couldn't shake the feeling that it was. That if she'd just trusted him from the beginning, if she'd never gone to Serrano, if she'd been stronger, faster, smarter, better, maybe they wouldn't be running. The days blurred together. Endless water, endless sky. They rationed food carefully, took turns sleeping, watched for patrol boats or helicopters or any sign they'd been found. But the ocean stayed empty, like they'd sailed off the edge of the world into nothing. On the 5th day, Marcus's wound got infected. He tried to hide it, but the fever gave him away. Lucian checked the bandages, and his face went pale. "It's bad," Lucian said quietly. "I've had worse. Not without proper antibiotics, not this far from medical help." Lucian looked at the horizon. "We need to make port. Get you to a doctor. We make port, they'll find us. You know that. You'll die if we don't. Then I die. Better than all of us getting caught because I couldn't handle a bullet wound. That's not your call to make. It's exactly my call. My body. My choice. We keep going." They argued for an hour. Marcus won because he was right. Stopping meant capture. Capture meant prison. Or worse. So they kept sailing while Marcus got sicker. His fever climbed. He started hallucinating, talking to people who weren't there, calling out names from what Celine assumed was his past. On the 7th day, Lucian changed course, headed northeast toward a cluster of small islands that didn't appear on most maps, places so remote and poor that authorities barely bothered with them. "There's a doctor," Lucian said, "on one of these islands, ex-military, runs a clinic for people who can't afford to be official. He owes me a favor." "How long to get there?" 8 hours, maybe 10. Depends on the current. They made it in 9. The island was exactly as Celine imagined. Rocky, barren, a handful of buildings clustered around a harbor that looked like it was held together with rust and prayers. They docked after dark. Lucien went to find the doctor while Celine stayed with Marcus. He was barely conscious, skin burning, breath coming in shallow gasps. Celine held his hand and tried not to think about what would happen if Lucien couldn't find help. Lucien returned 20 minutes later with a man who looked about 100 years old. White hair, weathered face, hands that shook until he started working and then moved with surprising steadiness. Infected badly,